Buenos días a todos. Gracias por estar con nosotros nuevamente. Thank you for being here this morning. We're going to be back on live translating. I was gone for about a week. Estuve lejos de ustedes como por una semana más o menos. Estuve un poco enfermo, pero un poco mejor ya. Vamos a ver cómo nos va este día. Y los días que nos faltaron, sin duda les vamos a estar regresando todo ese tiempo. Yo creo que el fin de semana vamos a estar haciendo un maratón de López Obrador para todas y todos ustedes. We're going to be doing a marathon this weekend for all the days that we were missing. So thank you very much for being here with us. We're going to be starting in just a few minutes. Hopefully that you guys get a chance to spread this out. Let everybody know that we're here. Tell them to come over and provide the link tree on the description. Great morning. Let's do this. We'll start in a few minutes. So there's been a few updates. Han habido unas novedades toda esta semana que no estuvimos juntos. When it comes to what happened with the people that died, con las personas que fallecieron ahí en Matamoros, 4 norteamericanos supuestamente que venían para una operación médica. Al parecer era estos de que te sacan grasa. Y algo pasó. Something went wrong with them 4 Americans. So we missed that. Entonces eso es lo que nos faltó. Entonces vamos a estar con ustedes para poder brindarles esa información este fin de semana. Pero empezando desde hoy en adelante, toda esta semana vamos a estarle dando en la mañana para ustedes. Me siento un poco ronco todavía, pero aquí estamos, dándole al 100%. Espero se encuentren bien. Empezamos en unos minutos. No se nos vayan. Agarren el Linktree, por favor. El Linktree. Déjenme ponérselos. Ahí está, ahí lo van a encontrar. El que estaba, bueno, uno antes de abajo. Mexico for You. Y listo. Pónganlo en sus redes sociales, por favor. Linktree está aquí abajito en la descripción. Linktree is in the description. And we're going to be starting here pretty soon. Thank you very much.
Buenos días. Ánimo.
Ánimo. Good morning, he says.
Bueno, pues
well, so
vamos a informar.
We're going to be informing. There are some very good news, but we're going to leave them
más tarde.
Until the end.
Empezamos con quién es quién en los precios y luego vemos los videos y de manera especial.
We're going to start with the who is who in the pricing. Then we'll see the videos. And then we're going to be looking at the archaeological supplements and with the Tren Maya with anthropologist Diego Prieto. And then we will continue. Congratulations to Guillermo del Toro, director of Mexican cinema, due to the Oscar award that he got by the Pinocchio movie. Very exceptional movie maker. He is a pride to Mexico. And what we're
que
going to
creo que
be
también es
talking
una muy
about,
buena noticia, muy buena,
and I think is a
es
really good
que ganó
news,
nuestra selección de béisbol,
is
le
that our
ganó a
baseball
Estados Unidos.
team, national
De eso
baseball team,
vamos a hablar
won.
más adelante. Es todo un acontecimiento.
Won at the U.S.-Mexico baseball game.
11-5, bien arreglados. Bueno, vamos.
11-5.
Muy buenos días, señor presidente. Muy buenos días a todas
Good
y a
morning,
todos
Mr.
ustedes
President. Good
quienes
morning to
quieren
all
el
of you. Who
precio
is who in the
de los
prices of the
combustibles. El
combustibles?
promedio de la gasolina
The
regular la
average
semana
of the
pasada 22 pesos con
fuelage
15
was
centavos el
22 with
litro.
15
El promedio de la
cents,
premium
and the
24
premium
pesos con
was
26 centavos y del
24.26
diésel
pesos,
23
and
pesos
diesel was
con
23 with
62 centavos.
0.62
Con corte el
cents.
9 de marzo, la
Up
mezcla
until 9th of
mexicana de
March, the
petróleo
petroleum
65
Mexican mix was
dólares con 95
$65 with 95 cents
centavos de
per
dólar.
barrel.
Subió un poco,
It
pero
went up a little
continúa
bit,
en la
but it
banda
is
como
continuing
varias
with,
semanas entre los
as it's been
52 y
for the
los
last few
72
weeks,
dólares, como pueden ver
between
en la
the
gráfica.
70 and
Por eso el incentivo
$72, as you
fiscal
can see in the
aumentó un
graph.
poco
That's
esta
why the
semana. Es
taxing incremented a little bit there,
47.3%
but
para la
it's,
regular.
sorry about that,
22.4% para la premium
22% for
y
premium increments and
43.7% para el diésel. Por eso
23.7% for
estamos
diesel.
atentos
That's why
a que
we are
este
paying attention
subsidio
to this
llegue a
subsidiary
las y a los
can arrive
consumidores,
to
que no
the
se lo quede
consumers,
un
and
gasolinero en
so
la
that
bolsa.
one gas
Vamos a
stationer
ver
does
las
not
tres
keep
marcas
it.
mascareras. La
We're going to
semana
see
pasada
three of
fue
the most
Redco,
expensive
Chevron y
companies, Redco,
Oxogas.
Chevron, and
Ojalá
Oxogas.
Oxogas se ajuste pronto, porque siempre ha
Hopefully,
estado a
Oxogas
media
can
tabla. Ahora
fix
ha
themselves.
andado
They've
peleando
always
uno,
been
dos, tres
halfways,
de
but
los
he's been
más
fighting
careros, mientras
among
que
the
los
most
tres
expensive ones.
aliados de
Meanwhile,
los y las consumidores
the
la
best
semana pasada fue
companies for
Winstar,
the good pricing was
ExxonMobil
Winstar,
y Orsan.
Exxon
Vamos a
Mobil,
ver ahora
and
para
Orsad.
cada una de las gasolineras
And we're going to be
quién fue
seeing
la que
for
tiene el
each
margen
one of
más
the
alto
gas
con el precio más
stations
alto.
that
Fue
has the
ARCO
highest price was
en
ARCO
Culiacán,
in
Sinaloa,
Culiacan,
un
Sinaloa,
precio al público de
with a
23
pricing to the
pesos con
public of
99
23
centavos, un
pesos with
margen de
99
4
cents, a
pesos
margin of
38
438
centavos.
pesos
Fueron los que se pasaron de
was
rosca por mucho
that they were
esta
over, so it
semana,
was almost 5
y vamos a
pesos.
compararlo con los 15
And we're going to be
centavos de
comparing it
margen
with
de
the
franquicia
15 cents
Pemex
margin
en
from
Canacín,
Pemex
Yucatán,
in
con
Canacín,
un precio
Yucatán,
al público
with a
de
price to the
21
public of
pesos con 9
21.09.
centavos. Recordemos que de esos
Let's
4
remember that
pesos,
from
pues
those
ellos
4
ahí se están
pesos,
embolsando sin
they
lugar a
are
duda
packing
la
or
mayor parte del
pocketing the money,
subsidio
the majority of
fiscal,
the
y eso
subsidiaries,
pues lo podemos
and that, of
impedir
course, we
también
can stop
nosotros
it
como consumidores y
as
consumidores,
consumers
buscando proveedores
by
cercanos a través de la app de
finding
litro por
close
litro
by
que sí den a un
providers
precio
that do
justo.
provide a good
Corpogas
price.
en
Corpo Gas, for
Cancún,
example,
Quintana Roo,
in
con un
Cancun,
precio
Quintana
al
Roo, with a
público de
pricing to the
25
public
pesos 18
with
centavos y
25.18
un margen de 3
and a
pesos
margin
un
of
centavo,
3
son la opción
pesos and
más
1
cara
cent
con el margen
with the
más
highest
alto,
option with
mientras
the
que con
highest
17
margin,
centavos de margen y
and
un
with the
precio al
17
público de
cents of
22
margin
pesos con 40
and a pricing to
centavos,
the public
la
with
opción más económica
22.40
es de
cents
franquicia
is the
Pemex en
cheapest one,
Veracruz, Veracruz.
Franquicia
Por
Pemex or
último, en
franchise
el
Pemex in
diésel
Veracruz. And
tenemos
at
que
the,
la
at the end,
opción
in
más cara
diesel,
con el
the
margen
highest
más
option
alto es Arco,
is
otra vez
Arco
en
again
Hermosillo,
in
Sonora,
Hermosillo, Sonora,
25
with
pesos con
25.59,
59 centavos y un
and
margen
then we
de
have
4
a
pesos
margin there with
51
4 pesos
centavos.
51 cents
Exageradísimo el margen.
over. So
Compárenlo con los 15
exaggerating
centavos de
compared to the
Repsol en
15
Tuxtla
cents of Rexon
Gutiérrez,
in
Chiapas.
Tuxtla
En
Gutierrez,
consecuencia, un precio al público mucho más bajo,
in
23
consequence
pesos
with the
con
highest price
51
and showing a
centavos.
low price from
Atendimos
Repsol of
191 quejas y
23.51.
denuncias
We attended to 151 complaints last week through the app Litro por Litro that, remember, you can download it free, Android and iOS, through 293 visits and verifications. There was 2 gas stations that were not allowing us to close them, even though we found irregularities, one in Saguayo, Michoacán, and the other one in Miguel Alemal, Tamaulipas. And 3 gas stations that did not allow us to come in, 2 in Saguayo, Michoacán. I'm not sure what happened there, that they don't want us to come in, and another one in Morelia, Michoacán. We're given a description there of these cases, and also we're verifying the WC locations so that they don't charge them. In LP gas, we are starting from the 8th of March, making from pesos and kilos the international price, which is in 23 cents, and out of the 200 locations in the country is 19.69 per kilo. And for stationary tanks, that same day on the 8th, the international price was 12.03, and the average of the Mexican regions is 10.63. We continue finding and looking for allies of the consumers that are providing this, with the lesser price in Nuevo León, Coahuila, and Jalisco. For example, Thermogas in Altamira, Tamaulipas, with the pricing to the public of 10 pesos with 9 cents per liter, when the maximum price is 50 cents above that, which is 10.59. In the case of the cylinders for gas, we find that the cheapest ones are State of Mexico, Quintana Roo, Jalisco, Oaxaca, Veracruz, Hidalgo, and Chihuahua. A good example of that is Azteca Gas in Atizapan, in Mexico, with a 19.52 per kilo, which is the maximum price, on around 20.15. There's a small difference there, just under 1 peso. And we completed 841 visits or verifications, and we find 3 irregularities, minor irregularities, in these situations and visits and verifications. We are also going to be looking into the 24 products that are most being consumed in the lives of the Mexican people, and we have about the national average for food and beverage that has been starting to be stable and have a flatline type of, and as the prices of the 24 products are being added in the high price and in the low pricing, and there's a slight increment on the average of the low pricing. We're going to see per regions. On the center locations, the highest price was at Walmart in Querétaro, 1,039.80 pesos, just 80 cents above the price that they've been using for this type of food distribution. And remember, this is due to production in the country in collaboration with the consumers of Mexico and with the federal government as well. The lowest price we found in Bodega Aurrera at 895 pesos with 60 cents. Here as well, you can find a good price in general, but they can better it in Central de Abastos or the supply chain locations in Mexico City, and it's among the 5th most economical in the zone. And in the North Zone, the highest price is Central de Abastos Durango, supply office with 1,034 pesos, point 10, and Mega Soriana in Michoacán, in Morelia, has the lowest price with 919.40. For the North Zone, the highest price was 1,085.80. HEB, Saltillo, Coahuila, and Bodega Aurrera is the lowest one in Coahuila as well. In that municipality, we do the comparison for 909.30. And at the end, in the south-southeast, the average there is still way under, starting from 1,138, the most expensive one, and 909.60 in Soriana Hiper, with the lowest price in Boca del Rio, Veracruz. And we're going to be talking about the money that has been sent, the remittance that has been sent to Mexico, in an average of $350 per month. And we also have what was received in January was 57.52 more from above the 2009 mark, and 68% on top of 2020, and 34.3 of 2021, and 12.41 more above last year's, to about $2,406 million. This tendency has continued, and thanks to these heroes and in the U.S. that have been providing assistance in an average of $350 a month. Let's see which one was the provider in the U.S., because there you guys take the decision to be able to send you dollars. The option was ULINK, that gave us for $350 $6,289 with 50 cents, because it does not charge commission and has a exchange rate when it comes to sending more than $500, even though it has a high commission. The highest one was for $10, had a good exchange rate with 18.24 per dollar, but it's only good when you send more than $1,000. But ULINK is the best option. But the worst option is charging a commission of $9 with 66 cents of a dollar, an exchange rate of 17.22 cents per exchange rate, and that it also is arriving to 5,860.65 for a charge of 17.22. For account depositing, Ulink is the best option. There's no commission. With 17.97, and the worst option, of course, Sigue, with 5,860.65, basically a lot higher, of $9.66 in commission, an exchange rate of 17.22. The financially Bienestar financiarity location that covers most of the Mexican territory, with 1,217 municipalities. Meanwhile, the one with the best locations and best hours is OXXO, with 19,146 locations in 1,040 municipalities. Remember that on this side, go for the closest place so that they don't spend any more money and get their paid off to the people that they are sent to. And make sure you let them know over there in the US. Good morning, Mr. President. Good morning, everybody. I don't want to leave out to memory who was the director of the Anthropologist in History location, Florescano, Enrique, that passed away just about 8 days ago. He was a great historian that basically took over all the culture and civilizations that occupied our locations, and also did a lot of very important works in culture, identities, myths, and patrimony, cultural patrimony. And we need to remember first actor Ignacio Lopez Tarso, that left us just the day before yesterday. Mr. President, well, we're going to be talking about the great archaeological work that is being developing in the priority location of Tren Maya. As you well know, the works of prospects have been concluded 100% from 1 to 7 in a way that we have covered a lot of variants, more than 1,600 kilometers of railway. This aside with the complementary works from the train that has allowed us to identify elements that constitute the base of the greatest archaeological investigation that has been developed in the Mayan area and Mesoamerica. And when it comes to archaeological excavations, we only need some work in 5, 6, and 7 locations. On the 5th location, we have provided and allowed approval with 81.7% of that location, and has no problems when it comes to advancements on the 5th location. And on the 6th location, we have provided approval for 71.5% of the 6th location, and on the 7th, we are at 57.36%. We also have provided through the territories, as well as the bettering of the archaeological locations at 520 archaeological locations, and we have many workers, biologists, anthropologists, and physical anthropologists, and more. We have them all working and concentrating there through instructions of Mr. President, so that before that this is concluded, we can finish the salvaging works from the 6th and 7th location, in particular on this last one, that in the right of the railway, that has 11,000 locations thanks to the prospect location, and we have established a way to be able to have 500 members of the military service backing up this salvaging works and locations, and the engineering of the project as well. We also have the backing of 400 brigadiers that correspond to the backing and reinforcement of the archaeological force and work of Campeche, that is also helping us out, Semarnat, Secretary of Well-being, SEDATU, and the National Institute of Valuement and Administration of National Goods. They are all assisting to provide and finish the archaeological work, and so that before April ends, we have all the work is 100% approved. And only on the 7th location, we have 1,240 workers to help us out with a work of clearing, cleaning, and rehabilitation of the salvaging of the archaeological locations. This is growing. We have recuperated information from thousands of locations in basements, walkways, temples, locations to living, and as well a location of elements that you can see the enormous density of the population that the Mayan area has had. They have also obtained more than 800,000 ceramic artifacts that we're working on, so that we can understand dates, exchange rates that they had back then. 1,700 locations with a lot of artifacts like knives and different goods that have been recovered. And after we have fixed them, we will be able to place them in a museum. And very many bowls that we found that we're going to be placing as well in a location for them to be seen. And also we have burial sites with caves, roots, and terror placements that we found with a lot of bodies and a lot of human remains, and we're going to be placing them, that they constitute also with the biocultural environments. And we're also working in the 26 locations that were selected for the bettering of the archaeological sites, one of which is in south of Quintana Roo, Sibanche, together with Kinishna, from which we're going to be showing you a video. The project Tren Maya Sebambalam is looking to favor the sustainable equilibrium from the southeast of Mexico and the Yucatan Peninsula, including regions before forgotten for the public investment as south and center of Quintana Roo. Due to that, the bettering project of archaeological called Promesa includes actions that will allow us to project socially, cultural, and touristic ways a lot of different sites of very main importance, amongst them Sibanche, Quinichna. At the difference of other different ancient Mayan locations, the ones on the south of Quintana Roo were maintained and kept away from the archaeological investigations and the public visitations up until recent times. Due to the very scarce of their population and the precarious of its economy, it was in the 20s of last century that were given to Sibanchi, that means writing in wood, place that immediately fell into oblivion, and it was up to until 1937, due to a request of Lázaro Cárdenas, there was an expedition to search for the Quintana Roo locations, leaving that location recognized as a cultural location and inheritance of the ancient Mayas. In 1987, the archaeological member Mr. Niaga started the locations on the site, and in 1994, work started to favor the opening to the visiting public. This location, constructed through a location of a 60-kilometer square area, it takes us to the 3rd century, to a time that the experts have denominated it as the classical period, 6th and to the 9th location. This is all interconnected with Sarnes, Sagves, or white ways, that in their moment was governed by the Canul dynasty. On this location, the monumental work begins through their main buildings, from the Temple of the Captives, which steps were constructed with large rock blocks of an more ancient time, and you can see pictures of people that are captive, tied by their hands, and this you can find as well in the area of Central Maya locations. Through the Temple of Bull, with a location of a type of chamber, with a location that contained a rich offering, with this bowl that gives the name to this building. We also have the Temple of the Cormoranes, that inside of it has the mural carving in stucco that references the Canul dynasty, with a lot of burial chambers, one that includes an ajuar, mortuary ajuar, with offerings of jade, and a cup with conmoral, with a fishing bird fundamental in the Mayan mythology. This Banche forms a urban conjunction that was an independent city, basically, Kinishna, or Casa del Sol, House of the Sun, that really is part of the same city, ancient city, with an acropolis of spectacular views, developed in 3 levels, accessible only through a stairway that conduces and takes you to 2 temples adjacent. Sibanche-Kinixna conjunction, it's also a part of the Tren Maya locations that will include the services area, the bettering of walkways, the digital services, a deep well for the hydraulic services, signaling, and a archaeological camp introduction site for the location, and an investigation and conservation department as well, so that Tren Maya, aside from being a priority type project for the tourism and development, opens up a window for the historical and anthropological type of works that we need to get done to understand the South Quintana Roo Mayans that have always fought for their place in history, in the present, and in the future of our country, plural country, that aspires to justice, liberty, and democracy. We are proud to know about our peoples and happy that our culture is a millenary culture with thousands of years, and that this inauguration we give you the welcoming. Go on the train.
Es todo.
All right.
Vamos con
We're going to be looking at a video again. The National Commission of Water is opening a Lago de Texcoco location. In January, we concluded a 14.5-acre area, and we are maintaining the waterways, given maintenance to the installations of the biofilters. We finished the recollection of seeds in Jardín Central, or Central Park. We are doing the replantation of trees of 480 trees. As part of the equipment, we are working on the metallic type of locations where 98 tons of columns have been installed. We are also working on 450 square meters of grass, and we are still working on locations for the trees on that area. In the hydro-sanitary locations, we have more than 14 kilometers of tubing, as well as we are working on 20,000 square meters of walkways. In the water locations, we are working on the channels that will permit us to connect from the north to the Lago Naborcanir. We are also advancing on the pyramidal walls that will be constructed throughout the park. We are still working on the unveiling of the inner part of the park so that we can establish some parking locations, and we are still working on the pillars for higher levels. Up to date, there's been more than 5,000 work and employment for people. All right. There we go. Let's congratulate the baseball team that are representing us in the classic World Series of baseball. Yesterday, for example, they won. They looked really good. They looked like horses, basically. That's how it's said in baseball. They represented with a lot of dignity the country of Mexico, and they defeated the U.S. And we're talking about the best baseball players of major leagues in the U.S. And the Mexican team, our team, starting from the first inning, they started scoring, and the first base player also stuck out a lot. Meneses was his name. He is from Culiacán, Sinaloa. He is also in AAA league. He belongs also to Washington, major leagues. When Soto comes out, that is a really good hitter, one of the most important ones nowadays in the major leagues. And they transfer him over to for more money, of course, in his contract to San Diego. They take Meneses to the major leagues, and as soon as he arrives, he starts hitting above a 300 average. And he's a really good player, of course. Not winning a lot. Just about the same as Soto's earning. He earns a lot less, of course. But he is a really good baseball player. Really, really good. Yesterday he did 2 home runs from the first inning, and we congratulate him a lot. He was one of the most valuable players. He got some scores. I think it was 3 or 4 of the 11th scored yesterday. And the other one that made a big difference, Arena, nationalized Mexican, from Cuba originally. He was in Mexico. He played in Mexico. He played in Yucatán. He was also going to play with the Mexican team, and as we provided him with the nationality last year, he is playing with us and doing a great job. And he's also a great hitter, and he produced a lot yesterday. He did a double.
Porque me desvelé.
He did a double on it.
Valió la pena.
And I can tell you about this because I overslept. I'm sorry, I stood up watching the game.
Benjamín Gil, que es el manager.
Benjamin Gil, who is the manager, also stood out above all the pitching departments.
Abrió Sandoval.
That Sandoval opened up with us.
Fenomenal.
That was phenomenal, of course. Lefty pitcher. There was a questioning about Sandoval was going to be able to confront the best from the U.S. Well, so he took the bat away from them, basically. They didn't harm him at all on the 3 innings that he was batting or pitching. And then very certainly, Benjamín Gil, the manager, managed the replacements as well. He did really good. Javier Hassad, the pitcher, he was a change, and all of the rest also did really good. And it's not just an easy thing to have the U.S. batters, very, very good players, and it's not a small thing to be able to defeat them. And the Mexican team was definitely a lot better. They didn't back down. Baseball
es como la buena política. Cabeza, corazón y carácter. Las 3 C.
It's like politics sometimes. Smart, character, passion, and serenity. Nothing about that I have the best batter, second best batter, major leagues, and I'm not going to know what to do. Yesterday's pitchers from Mexico, always throwing, and still couldn't do it. They couldn't bat. So it was a really good game. On Tuesday, there's Mexico against England, and on Wednesday against Canada. But it's really important yesterday, maybe that you have a fragment of the game so we can see it, of what happened yesterday.
Se fue el corredor, el lanzamiento está conectando patazo tremendo. En dirección al jardín de la izquierda, va atrás, atrás.
They're starting from the backfield. That's Meneses.
Allí lo tienen.
And there you have it. It's a superb home run to left field. Here are the first 2 scoring for Mexico.
En larga distancia está conectando Rolling. Difícil allá, el disparo tiene que ser rápido.
And there it is.
Eso parecía algo, pero fue así.
El esfuerzo que tiene que hacer McNeil, y esto permite que llegue la tercera.
McNeil allowed them for the Mexican team from the 3rd, coming in, 4th inning. And then you got Thomas. Pay attention with this hit. It goes up against the wall, and Rosalena. Thomas from the 2nd will score. And Meneses again. And he scores.
Allí lo tiene.
It's about 400-meter hit.
El segundo tablazo de cuadrangular para Joey Meneses. La estrella de México para
Mexican
poner a su
star
equipo en ventaja,
to put his
7
team
carreras por una. Meneses.
above
Estados
all.
Unidos no les tiene ningún tipo
8th inning.
esta calidad. Sí, cómo no. Batazo.
Otro.
The
Por la
major hit
parte izquierda, pica y
through
se
left
va,
field.
balón profundo, va a ser un extra
Goes
base.
all the way
Desde
deep.
segunda, ya está la goma. Llega
And
la
on
octava
second,
para el equipo
there's the
mexicano en las
8th
piernas
scoring
de Osip de
opportunity.
México. Rauditeles, cuenta negativa, el lanzamiento, rolling, que va a la banda izquierda.
Goes to the
Dos
left
nuevas
field
carreras
again.
van a venir aquí para el conjunto
2
mexicano.
new
A los
scores.
en primera instancia y después el corredor emergente que se había robado una
The
almohadilla, señores,
replacement
llega ahí en
runner
México. Fiesta,
comes in from Mexico.
las tribunas repletas.
We got full audience today,
Batazo.
says.
De
Major
hacia
hit.
el jardín izquierdo. Cruza
Left
por
field as
tercera,
well.
se viene Teles con la número 11 y ahí está.
Teles scoring
La carrera número 11.
11.
Truculento es
El lanzamiento
bateador
está
designado,
conectando
cuarto
roletazo
bate.
que lo puede manejar en la
Pero
antesalita, va a ser
fajado.
un extra base. Aquí
Look at how he's a big sized guy, but
Y se va.
runs from second to
Esa
home
es la pasión.
and scores. That's the passion.
No, se quedó Tucker en la tercera y doble impulsor de 2 para Tim Anderson, 11 carreras.
9th inning.
Goldschmidt es el bateador de turno, hombre en primera. Osad prepara Reyes, el envío le hace
That is
swing,
Reyes
levanta la
hitting.
bola. Y allá está.
Makes a hit,
Thomas capturando
but Thomas will
al
capture that
27.
27th out.
La victoria contundente
Victory,
por parte de los mexicanos.
For sure victory
Perdieron
by
en el
Mexicans
inicio y
that
ganan
lost in the
por primera vez
beginning,
ante el
but
gran rival
wins
de los Estados Unidos.
for the first
Definitivamente
time
los mexicanos
Bueno,
against the U.S. Well,
pues felicidades.
so congratulations.
Y ahora sí vamos a
So let's go ahead and start
preguntas y respuestas.
for the Q&A section.
Quedó pendiente
We had some pending partners. Shaila.
Gracias. Buenos días, presidente. Buenos días a todos. Shaila Rosagel.
Good morning to
corresponsal
all.
del Grupo
Shaila
Gili,
Rosagel
Imparcial
from
de Sonora,
Gili.
La Crónica de Mexicali y Frontera de Tijuana. Presidente, preguntarle en primer lugar sobre la mega planta solar.
Ask
en
you about
Sonora.
the solar
Preguntarle
plant
si,
in Sonora.
se cuenta en la CFE con
Ask you
recursos asignados
if we
para
have
el
enough
servicio
money
de las líneas de
for
transmisión para llevar
from the
energía
electrical
a
company
Baja
to
California,
take
Estados Unidos.
energy
¿De
to
cuánto será el monto
Baja
para el encendido de
California,
líneas de transmisión y cuándo se destinará?
and when will that be? As well, from the plant, to ask you if there's going to be private investment, national or external, and when will this be done for the production and have the electrical productions for the U.S. and the international market.
Ya inauguramos la primera etapa.
Yes, we've done the first phase, but of course,
Ampliar
we still need to amplify the solar park,
solares
such
y
as
falta el tendido
solar panels and the line
distribución
for distribution
conectar
to connect
el norte Sonora y Baja
the
California.
north of Sonora and
Estamos en eso.
Baja California. We're working on that
Nosotros
mainly.
vamos a dejar
We are going to
la segunda etapa el año próximo
leave a second phase on
y las líneas de transmisión
and the lines of
hacia,
transmission
Baja California. Ya está
to Baja California. It's also being done
ese plan.
and it's contemplated.
Puede ser que
It could be that
el director de la Comisión Federal de
the director of electricity come in and technicians also arrive to inform them
la planta solar
about the solar plants in Peñasco
sobre todos los planes
and about all the
en
plans
el caso de
that
Sonora,
we have pending in the case of
y
Sonora
todo lo que significa
and all that it means to generate
electricidad
more electricity
mediante
by means of
plantas eólicas, solares,
ionic plants,
desde
solar
luego,
plants,
la modernización
of
de las
course,
hidroeléctricas
modernization of the
continúa,
hydroelectrical
todo lo
plants
que
that
es
continue,
producir
all
energía
that is producing energy
renovable.
that is
Vamos a
renewable.
contar con la visita
We
de
are
nuevo
including the visit of
el día 21 de marzo, si no hay
21st of March, if there's no changes.
su agenda. Nos va a acompañar el secretario Kerry,
Secretary Kerry will be
que
coming
es
in
el
with us.
representante del
That
presidente
is
Biden
representative of Mr.
para
Biden
cambio climático.
for the
Él va a
climate
estar el día
change.
21
He will be there on the
de marzo.
21st of March.
Lo invité a
I invited
que
him
me acompañe a Guelatao,
so that he can come with me to Guelatao,
porque ese día
because that day
conmemoramos, celebramos el
we
nacimiento
celebrate the
del presidente Juárez
birth
en
of
su
President
pueblo.
Juarez in its
Siempre lo
town.
hago,
I always do it.
siempre vamos allá.
We always go there.
Vamos a estar el día 21.
So we're going to be there
¿Por qué lo invito
on the
a él?
21st. Why am I inviting him?
Juárez
Because
mantuvo
President Juarez
una muy buena
maintained a
relación
very good relation
con el presidente Lincoln.
with Lincoln, President Mr. Abraham Lincoln, and
Reconocía mucho el presidente Juárez
Juarez recognized him a lot,
el que nunca
and the fact that
haya
he never
reconocido a Maximiliano,
recognized the fact
nunca reconoció al
that
imperio,
Maximiliano,
nunca aceptó que se invadiera México.
he never accepted that Maximilian
Mantuvo
basically
una
invaded
postura de mucho
Mexico.
respeto hacia México
Lincoln always
y de
sent a lot of respect
apoyo
towards Mexico
a la
and a
lucha
lot of
del
backing
presidente Juárez.
to the
Entonces,
fight of
vamos a estar
President Juarez.
en Guelatao y de
So
regreso
we're going to be in Guelatao,
Oaxaca,
and
vamos a
on the
tener
way
una reunión
back
que tiene que ver con
in Oaxaca, we're
energías
going to be
renovables.
doing
Vamos
a
a trabajar
renewable
con
energy
Sonora,
situation. We're going to be adapting
plantas
Sonora plan,
solares, eólicas,
ionic
lo que
plants,
estamos
solar
haciendo.
plants.
Esto va a ser el día 21 de
This is
marzo.
going to be on the 21st
Sí hay
of
entonces un
March.
presupuesto ya asignado
So
para
there's
este
a
tipo de
budget,
Sí,
Mr.
actividades.
President, for
sí,
those
yo
lines?
pienso
Yes.
que por lo que estás
Yes, I think that
preguntando y además
due to what you're asking,
que
and because
es muy importante,
it's really important for us,
hace falta
we
que vengan
need
los técnicos,
that there's technicians to come
que
in
expliquen aquí todo el plan.
and that they can explain the
Hacemos ese
entire plan.
compromiso.
We do that
Gracias,
compromise.
presidente. Ya en una segunda
Thank you, Mr.
pregunta,
President. And on the second
preguntarle,
question,
presidente, pues sobre esta
ask you
declaración
about
que
this
hizo
declaration
Ovidio
that
Guzmán el 7 de
Ovidio
marzo,
Guzman did on the
cuando
7th of
negó
March,
ser Ovidio Guzmán,
where he
preguntarle qué opina
denied,
sobre esto y este proceso que se está llevando en torno a su
and
extradición.
ask you about this extradition process of
Los
him.
abogados
Yes, well, the lawyers
utilizan
utilize
tácticas
these practices,
legales
legal
o
practices,
legaloides
or legalized practices,
para ganar tiempo.
to earn time, basically.
Son tácticas dilatorias.
They're delaying tactics.
Son legítimas porque
They're legitimized.
los abogados se dedican a eso. Ese es su trabajo.
And the lawyers do that.
Pero
That's
desde
their
luego,
job. But of course,
sí se trata de Ovidio,
and of course, when it comes to a video,
nuestros adversarios
our adversaries, of course,
dicen que no es Ovidio.
they say it's not a video.
Los conservadores y sus voceros.
All these conservatives and their speakers that are really
Con mucho desparpajo,
unveiled,
declarando cosas. Además, mostrando el
declaring a lot of things and showing their worst side,
haciendo el ridículo.
being ridiculous.
Entonces ahora dicen que no es Ovidio.
So now they're saying it's not a video. And that is one of our creations. It's a maneuver to lie to them.
Así está en las redes.
That's how it is in the social media.
Miren, a ver si tienes ahí lo que
Maybe we could see
escribió
what
en su página el presidente del PAN.
what the president of El PAN, the political party El PAN, wrote. The president of one of the conservative parties, defender of corruption, but also of inner being type of situation. Look at what he did here. President of the party. If we acted in a stricter way, as they say, in a hypocritical way, that the law is the law, this is an act of basically anti-patriotic type of act that is not allowed, that is legally not allowed. It's inconstitutional. And then look at what it says. I'm going to go ahead and read it. When the conservatives went to pick up Maximilian, because it's the same thing, it doesn't change. That's why when I had to define how to call them, I had the option, of course, to tell them oligarchies, aristocrats, right-winged, and I opted to call them conservatives because, amongst other things, they're parties of maintaining the status quo, that nothing changes. It says López Obrador needs to recognize its undoubtful failure in security, to fix and retake the necessary collaboration with DEA, DEA, because not everybody knows, it's like the CIA.
La DEA es una agencia del gobierno de Estados Unidos para el combate a las drogas.
It's a way to combat drug cartels, of course. It's an agency of the U.S. as the CIA is another agency with different proposals that has to do with the intelligence and other works and other actions from the U.S. government. So this government in the U.S., he's talking about, to retake the necessary collaboration with DEA to combat the cartels of the narco traffic that generate deaths, violence, and intranquility to the Mexican families.
puso esto,
Whoever did
no
this,
sé si hubo un comentario ahí,
there's a
a ver si lo ponen completo,
comment there. See, maybe that we can see it.
porque no necesito yo responder.
Because I don't even need to respond.
Bueno, para empezar, miren el comentario de este Abraham Mendieta.
From Adrian Mendieta
No se
commentary.
aceptan
We don't accept
consejos.
narco. We don't accept any narco
Pero vaya desfachatez.
consultations.
El señor García Luna
But what a fake.
fue de inteligencia, el de la DEA mexicana,
No tips, no narco
con
tips.
Fox, y luego secretario de seguridad
So he was working with
con Calderón,
Calderon in the same party with Genaro Garcia Luna.
sido juzgado,
Genaro Garcia Luna being judged in the
se
US.
le declara culpable y tiene que estar mínimo 20 años en la cárcel. hasta
It has to
pena
be
perpetua.
basically at least 20 years up to death row, or not life in jail.
Posiblemente va a hablar
That guy will most likely speak and talk
porque va a buscar
because he's going to
que
find
reduzcan los años de cárcel.
to get his years
Y
taken
va
out,
a decir
and he's going to
lo que pues es obvio,
say what is, of course, already known and
es de
obvious,
sentido común,
common sense,
de juicio práctico, de
practical
que él informaba a sus jefes, a Fox,
situations that he would inform his bosses, Fox,
que
Calderon,
también tenía
that he
vinculación
also had
con la DEA
connections with the DEA,
y trabajaban de manera coordinada,
and that they were working in a
porque
coordinated way, because that with
y con
DEA
otras agencias de Estados Unidos echaron a andar, por ejemplo, y eso está demostrado,
and that's been demonstrated that they started
el operativo rápido y furioso.
the Fast and
Los
Furious
gobiernos de Estados Unidos y de
operation.
México
The Mexican
en
and
ese entonces
U.S. governments
permitieron la entrada
allowed
de armas al país,
the arrival of weaponry
armas
to the country,
que supuestamente
weapons that
traían
supposedly
sensores
had sensors,
y que iban a ser detectadas
and that they were going to be
cuando
detected
llegaran a manos
once they arrived
de
to
los narcotraficantes.
the narco traffickers.
Imagínense
Just imagine
ese plan,
about that plan,
esa ocurrencia
that occurrence,
en un gobierno que estaba completamente
in a
infiltrado,
government that was completely overtaken,
porque García Luna,
because Garcia Luna, of course, protected,
de acuerdo al juicio,
according to the
a
trial,
un cartel.
one cartel.
¿Qué sucedió?
So what
Las
happened?
armas llegaron, en efecto, a manos de
Weapons
delincuentes,
arrived,
se
of
usaron
course,
sin
in the
problema,
hands of the delinquents without a problem. They used them
asesinar
to assassinate
a mexicanos y a estadounidenses.
Mexicans and U.S. citizens.
Eso era lo que significaba la cooperación
That's what that
con la DEA.
meant with the DEA cooperation thing. But now that we're talking about that, not too long ago,
Todo se oculta
of course, everything is
porque
hidden
tenemos medios de información, ya lo
because
hemos
we have
dicho en
information
otras
media,
ocasiones,
and we've said it before,
que callan
that
como
are
momias
quiet
cuando se trata de informar
when it comes to
con
informing
veracidad.
with ferocity,
y gritan como pregoneros
and they yell
cuando se trata
like crazy
de
when it comes
atacarnos,
to attacking them.
porque buscamos que esto
Because
ya
we're
no se
looking
repita,
for this not to be repeated,
que haya justicia
and that there's
y
justice,
que no haya corrupción,
and that
que
there's
haya
no
impunidad.
corruption and no impunity.
Hace muy poco,
Not too long ago, of course.
estoy seguro que los que nos están viendo no lo
I'm
saben.
sure that the ones that are
La mayoría.
watching us, not a lot of them
De
know
que al que
know
estaba de jefe de la DEA en México,
that the one that was from a
que
DEA
tardó como un año o 2
boss
años
position that
de jefe de la DEA,
lasted for about 2 years as DEA
lo
chief.
destituyeron, nada más,
They destituted him
porque
just because
le encontraron
they found
de que convivía.
that he was getting along with narco traffickers.
Y este señor,
And this guy, of course,
que nos alineemos
this guy
a la DEA,
is recommending us to go with the DEA.
pero agrega en una
Oh,
declaración
but no, he also adds in a
de
declaration
que si yo no
that if I
me
don't
alineo,
align
me va a pasar
myself,
lo de García Luna.
the same thing that happened to Garcia Luna is going to happen to me.
Yo no soy Calderón.
I'm not Calderon, ladies and gentlemen.
¿Cómo se llama el señor?
What's his name?
Marco Cortés.
Marco Cortés.
Más respeto, por favor.
More respect, please, Mr. Cortés.
Entonces, esto,
Look at this.
aquí está, mire. Está muy bueno el cartón. Claro que tenemos cooperación con el gobierno.
Of course, we have a cooperation with the U.S., but
Con respeto a nuestra soberanía.
with a lot of respect towards our sovereignty.
De a partir
And starting from
la política que hemos
the
definido en México para
politics
enfrentar
that we've defined in
aquello de la
Mexico to
violencia.
confront the
¿Y en
violence
qué consiste esa
situation.
política?
And what does this mean?
Primero en atender las causas.
First, to take care of the causes.
Primero,
First.
porque no basta con
Because
el
it's
uso
not
de la
enough, of
fuerza,
course, with the use of
con las
force,
cárceles, con las leyes más severas.
with the most severe laws.
No se puede enfrentar la violencia con la
You
violencia.
can't confront violence with
No se puede
violence.
enfrentar el mal con el mal.
You cannot confront the bad with the bad.
Apoyando a la
We are
gente,
backing the
de
people
manera especial a los jóvenes,
in a special way,
que tengan oportunidad de trabajo, que tengan oportunidad
especially the
de
youngsters,
estudio.
that they have
Me da
study
muchísimo
opportunities.
Que se redujo
I'm really happy that
considerablemente
there's a reduction,
últimos
considerable
años.
reduction in the last few years.
El abandono de la escuela, la
The
deserción
abandonment
escolar
of schooling,
en el nivel
the
medio
school
superior, en el
desertion
nivel de preparatoria.
in
Los jóvenes
high
ya
schools.
no abandonan la escuela.
Youngsters don't
Porque
abandon this
todos
anymore
los
because
estudiantes
all the
de nivel medio superior tienen su beca.
high school students have their grants.
4.500.000. Y estamos entregando en total 11 millones de becas.
And we are turning in total 11 million.
Y ya son 2.500.000 jóvenes que están trabajando como aprendices. Que el que no estudia, el que no encuentra trabajo, se le
The
contrata
ones that aren't
y se le forma y se le paga.
studying or working, they are getting hired now
Entonces, eso es
with
ir
those
a las
scholarships.
causas, atender las necesidades de la gente.
That's tending to
Y
the
lo
people.
otro, que valoremos la
And the other one
importancia
is to value the importance
de mantener la unidad familiar,
of maintaining the
nuestras
family
tradiciones, nuestras costumbres,
union,
nuestras culturas,
family unity,
porque eso
our
es
cultures,
lo que nos salva
our ways, because that's what saves us.
ante las calamidades de todo tipo.
Upon calamities of all
Nuestra
types,
fortaleza
our
cultural,
cultural
las
power,
profundas raíces
the deep roots
nuestro México,
of our Mexico,
lo que viene del México
what comes
profundo,
from Mexico, deep within Mexico.
lo que siempre he dicho,
What
he
I've always
sostenido,
said,
la
and I've
familia
always held
mexicana
up,
es
Mexican
la
families
principal institución de
is the
seguridad
main
social que
social
tenemos en el
institution
país.
that we have in the country.
Y tenemos que cuidar que no se
And we need to
desintegre
take care of that
y atender a los jóvenes
and tend
y
to the young people
mantenerlos juntos.
and keep them together.
Yo respeto mucho las costumbres en otros países,
I respect
en el caso de
the
Estados Unidos,
ways of other countries. In the
son
case of the US, of course,
otras
there are other
las
ways of working,
formas
cultures
de relacionarse familiarmente.
that they have.
Ya los jóvenes,
Over
desde
there,
que empieza la adolescencia, ya se
youngsters,
van de la casa.
since they become adolescent, they go,
Acá no.
they leave the home. Not here.
Y yo creo que eso
And
nos
I
ha
think
ayudado
that,
mucho
well,
a mantener la unidad familiar.
and it's helped us
En
to
Estados Unidos, que
maintain
tienen un problema
the
serio
reality.
por el consumo del
And
fentanilo,
in the US,
creo que no solo es evitar que llegue el
and it's
fentanilo,
not only to avoid to
sino
get fentanyl there,
atender las causas.
but take care of the
¿Por qué los
causes.
jóvenes
Why do the
optan por
young
las
people
drogas?
opt for the drugs?
Que no es
Isn't
por
it
desatención,
due to
por
not tending to them?
soledad,
Loneliness?
por falta
For lack
de
of
comprensión,
comprehension?
falta de opciones, de alternativas
For lack of
para ser
alternatives
felices
to be
sin
happy
las drogas?
without
¿Qué está
drugs?
pasando ahí?
What's happening there?
Ahora que vino una comisión del gobierno de Estados Unidos,
Not
yo
that there
les
was a
comentaba,
commission coming in from the US. I
qué
would
no?
tell them, why not
se otorga una beca
provide
a
scholarships
las familias
to the
en Estados
families
Unidos
in the US
que tienen hijos
that have children,
para que en vez de
so that
que
instead of
se vayan los hijos
let the
a
children
los
leave
18 años,
up until 18,
desde luego de manera voluntaria,
of course, in a voluntary way if they want to stay
con sus familias,
with their families,
y hay acuerdo
and that there's an
que
agreement
el gobierno le apoye a esa familia
that the government can back them up,
para que el joven salga de la
so that the youngster could come out of the
a los
house
21 años, que estén
up
más.
until 21, so
En
that they're
familia.
a little bit more with the family.
Y lo otro
And the other
que
thing
estamos recomendando
that we're
es que
recommending
haya información
is that there's information,
que no la hay en Estados Unidos, en los medios,
which
que son muy buenos
there's
para
no
el amarillismo,
information, that they're really good with
pero que no contribuyen
talking, but they're not
a
contributing
orientar, a
to
concientizar,
orient,
concientizar a jóvenes, a las
to
familias,
make
por
sure young
ejemplo, del daño
people,
del fentanilo.
families, for example, of the
En
danger
las televisiones
of fentanyl.
de Estados Unidos
Well,
aparece
in the TV's
de
TV
que el
channels
consumo del
in the
fentanilo
US,
causa la
they talk
muerte
about
en 6 meses.
fentanyl
No, aparece como
causes
noticia,
death in 6 months. It comes out as a news
pero no hay una campaña de orientación, ni en la radio, ni en los
information.
periódicos.
There's a campaign
Se dice
to orient, but only on the
que contienen
newspapers.
las drogas químicas.
Is there a mention of the contents of that drug?
No,
Is that spoken about? No.
lo que hay son series
What you have, there's a lot of series
para hacer
for
apología
to do an apology
de los grupos
about
dedicados a la delincuencia.
the organized crime groups.
Entonces, todo esto es lo que
So
nosotros
all of this
estamos llevando a cabo
is what we're doing.
y nos está dando resultados. Muy
And it's
contrario
working.
de lo que piensa
And very contrary
el
to
señor
what
dirigente del PAN.
Mr.
Nos ha costado porque,
PAN's
a ver si me
president
pones,
thinks.
de
It's cost
favor,
us.
la información sobre homicidios.
And if you could put the
Nos ha costado
information about homicides,
mucho
it's cost us a
porque
lot
no se atendían las
because
causas.
the causes were not tended to.
Llevaban
They
años
would
sin
have
atender las causas.
years
Bueno,
without tending the causes.
había un narcoestado, pues.
There was a narco state, of course.
Hablamos de otras cosas.
So why speak about other things?
Y si acaso hacían algo,
And of course, if they did something,
pensando en atender
it's always
efectos,
about tending to
en medidas coercitivas, como si eso resolviera el problema. También yo
defects
sostuve cuando tuvimos la reunión sobre el fentanilo y otros temas hace poco con una comisión que vino de parte del presidente Biden, de que bueno, a ver, no llega el fentanilo.
So when Biden was here, we were saying
La frontera.
that
Que
the
conste de
border
que el
was
fentanilo
blocked,
no
and of course, fentanyl
se produce en México,
is not being produced in Mexico. It
viene de Asia,
comes from Asia.
entra una parte
One part
por los puertos del
comes in
Pacífico.
through the
Y
Pacific ports,
estamos ahí
and we're there
evitando
avoiding
su entrada
its entry, illegally entry,
porque se utiliza también
because it's also
como
being used
medicamento,
as a medication
para quitar el dolor.
to take away the pain.
Pero desde luego
But of
entra
course,
con propósitos
it comes in
de
with
narcotráfico.
narco trafficking proposals.
También entra por otros lados a Estados Unidos, no solo por México,
And also comes in through to the US
aceptando
through different ways, not just
o
through Mexico,
pensando que se va a
but
evitar
accepting
la entrada. Que no pueden, como lo han hecho ya en Estados Unidos,
through Mexico. It not only comes through Mexico with the purposes of illegal drugs, and as it's been done in other countries, can't we or they produce
que no
another type of
hablábamos
pill?
que hay una serie
Weren't we talking about that there was a series
en
about
donde un laboratorio estaba en quiebra
a laboratory was in bankruptcy,
e inventaron una pastilla para quitar el dolor que en efecto
and they
quitaba el dolor,
created this pill
pero era
that took the pain
adictiva.
away, but it was addictive,
O es, porque creo
or
que
is,
todavía
because it's still
hasta la usan.
being used.
Esta.
This one here.
Pero además, con aprobación de la Agencia de Salud de Estados Unidos. Y este laboratorio que estaba quebrado,
And
obtiene
even with the
miles de millones de
approval of
dólares.
the health
Sí, nada más que
departments,
causa la muerte
obtained
miles
the
de
death to
ciudadanos estadounidenses. Hay
thousands.
hasta un juicio.
There's even a trial,
Y lo están multando
and that
al
they're
laboratorio con 35
charging
millones
that
de
laboratory
dólares,
with
nada más que se calcula que ganó
$35 billion,
con
and it's been calculated
la
that
distribución de esta
they won
droga,
with the distribution of the drug
alrededor de 300, 500
around
mil millones de
300,
dólares
500,000 million dollars legally
permitido.
allowed.
Llegó al extremo
It came to the point
de que asaltaban las farmacias
that they would hijack the pharmacies
esta pastilla
just to steal this pill
por el grado de
because of the addiction rate
que produce,
that it
niveles
produces,
tan elevados de adicción.
the highest levels of addiction.
Bueno, todo esto
All this
es lo que nos recomienda
is what
el dirigente del PAN.
the PAN president is what is
Aunque se
recommending.
enojen,
Even if they get mad and
todos los medios de información,
all the media start
López Dóriga, Ciro, Gómez Leiva,
López Dóriga,
Loret de
Ciro,
Mola,
Loret de Mola,
etcétera, 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 etcétera. Ah, la revista Siempre. ¿Por qué no?
what about the
¿Qué diría
magazine Siempre?
Pepe Pajés
What would
de la
Pepe
portada
Pajes
de
would
Siempre?
say from the magazine El
La
Siempre,
última.
the last one?
No, es donde sale que un legislador de
It's the
Estados
one
Unidos
that this U.S. legislator
me reclama.
is complaining about the same thing,
Porque parece que
because it
actúan
seems like they're
como un
acting
acuerdo.
as an agreement.
Los conservadores de México,
These Mexican conservatives
los legisladores
with
del
the
Partido
legislators
Republicano,
of the Republican Party
y con los que siempre han querido someter a México, porque este es un asunto de soberanía. Cuando estaba Calderón, entraban
including the ones that want to
los de la DEA y de todas
undertake
las
Mexico,
sin pedir
undermined us,
permiso, se metían hasta la cocina. Es más,
and they want to submit us, as they did before when they would come in. They would manage the Secretary of the
¿cuál
Navy,
fue el resultado?
and what was the result?
Más asesinatos,
A lot more murders,
más asociación delictuosa entre autoridades,
more association in between police
el crimen
from the U.S.
organizado.
and Mexico
No vamos a
with
seguir
the
con esa política.
organized crime. We're not going to do that politic anymore.
Si continúan
And if they
eh,
continue, of
presionando,
course, pressuring,
pues vamos nosotros a
we're going
estar
to
informándole
be informing
al pueblo,
the people,
porque llegaron al extremo
because they've arrived to the extreme,
unos legisladores del
to the
Partido
point where
Republicano
these legislators from the Republican parties
de plantear que si no nos
to
alineábamos,
say that if we didn't align ourselves, just as the PAN did,
iba a intervenir
they were going to intervene.
el ejército estadounidense en
The
nuestro territorio.
army was going to
Nos iban a
intervene.
invadir.
They were going to invade us.
Eso es una falta de respeto.
That's a disrespectful way to speak.
Amenaza no
That threat,
aceptamos. Por eso
we don't
hoy
accept it. That is why today
en Washington,
in Washington, Secretary of External Relations, speaking with all the consuls, our consuls, to inform the Mexican people that live and work in the U.S. and everybody from Latin America, as well as the U.S. citizens, about the unfair way that these legislators act with.
Informar también de lo que estamos haciendo, de que es falso, de que no.
And also tell them about what we're doing, and that it's false, that we're not taking care of our part.
Al contrario,
Arrogant ways that the legislators speak, treacherous ways, and that if we don't act as we are acting now, Mexico would be a hell, because it would be in the hands of the white-collar delinquency and the organized crime. It would be as it was
En el tiempo de
before
Calderón,
in Calderon's
un
time,
narcoestado.
a narco
Y eso
state.
ya no existe
And of course, that
en
is
nuestro
gone.
país. Aquí hay una auténtica democracia.
There's an authentical
El gobierno
democracy.
es del
The
pueblo,
government is for the people,
no de las élites, no
not
de
for
las
the
mafias
elites, not for the mafias,
económicas o políticas.
economical
Esa es
or
la
political.
diferencia.
That's the difference.
Ahora, está siempre, miren, este es un
There
soldador,
it is,
creo, ¿no?
with the magazine Siempre.
Pero miren la portada.
But look at the main
Señor
page.
presidente,
Mr.
¿a quién
President,
representa?
who
¿Al
do you
pueblo o a
represent?
los
The
carteles?
people or the cartels?
La señora de siempre,
The
que
lady
habló aquí
that
cuando
always
vinieron
speaks,
a
that's the one that
manifestarse.
was speaking here that
El-
when they came in,
Sonsonete,
but Sontonete,
que al INE no se le toca.
that INE is untouchable.
Ya nada más falta que digan, a García Luna no se le toca.
The only thing that they need is Calderon and Garcia Luna is untouchable as well.
A la DEA no se le toca.
DEA is untouchable.
A la prensa vendida, alquilada,
The
no
sold
se le
out
toca.
press, untouchable.
Así
That's
está.
all they need.
Todavía
That's
hay
all they
una
need to say.
caricatura histórica buenísima, pero esos son otros.
There's a good
Siempre, de cuando Díaz
cartoon, but that's of
Ordaz,
course
abrió
from Diaz
la
Ordaz
campaña en contra
when
de
he
mi
opened
paisano,
a campaign against my
Carlos Madrazo,
paisan Carlos
grande,
Madrazo, the great one, the
al
big
que
one,
se dice que lo asesinaron
the one that is said that he was murdered
con un bombazo
with a bomb
a un avión.
on an
Murió
airplane.
mucha gente inocente.
Well, a lot of people perished,
Y el pelón Osuna, tenista, pero ese es
and
otro
Baldozuna,
tema.
tennis
Un día
player,
vamos a
but
tratar
that's
eso.
another subject that we're going to be speaking about soon. But of course,
Sheila ya. Bueno, mira, tenemos un invitado.
we have special invites.
¿Cómo es que decimos nosotros aquí? Oh,
How do we say? Oh,
no. Con todo respeto. Tenemos
with all
a
due
Octavio
respects, we
Valdés
have Octavio
de
Valdés
Univisión Los Ángeles.
from
Le
Univision
damos
Los
oportunidad.
Angeles. We're going to give him an opportunity.
Gracias, señor presidente. Octavio Valdés de Univisión 34 Los Ángeles.
Channel 34 in LA.
En gran
So,
parte de lo que usted está mencionando,
to
esta
speak about what
relación,
you're
esta,
talking about, this relation,
prensa, estos
this
mensajes que se están
messages
enviando
for the
desde
press,
el otro lado de la frontera,
that these messages are being sent out to the
a los connacionales,
other side
compatriotas,
to put them
estas
in
alertas de viaje
a
que
warning,
todos los días
these
tenemos
alerts
que estar
of trips that
informando
every
en el
day
sur de
we need to be
California y
informing
desde
in the south of
California
California
hasta
and
Florida.
from California to Florida.
Solamente dos
Only
estados
two
mexicanos en
states,
este momento
Mexican
para el
states,
Departamento de Estado
to
norteamericano
the
serían
U.S.
seguros
departments
para viajar
would be
de parte de
safe
nuestros
to
connacionales
travel
a
to.
México. Estamos hablando de Yucatán y
We're
estamos
talking
hablando
about
de
Yucatan
también
and
Campeche.
Campeche.
El resto,
The
los otros
rest,
cinco,
at least
serían no
5,
viajar de ninguna manera.
they are asking not
Mencionaba
to
el
travel to.
procurador, como usted lo hace desde hace muchos
The
años, los héroes, las heroínas, que pase lo que pase, pues no se olvidan de México y siguen viendo por
District
sus
Attorney
familias
and
de este
the
lado.
Attorney
Tienen días
General has
importantes,
spoken about
tienen
that there's
vacaciones,
new
y
days
ante
and
este nivel de alerta
vacation
también de
time
lo que ha
coming in
pasado en los
at this
últimos días en
level of
Tamaulipas
warning
y algunos
what's
otros
happening in
acontecimientos muy
Tamaulipas
lamentables,
and a lot
hay
of
preocupación
other
y hay
things.
miedo
There are
sincero
worries and
de
fear,
muchas personas, muchas
sincere
familias,
fear
muchos
with
ciudadanos
a lot of
mexicanos
families
que se
and a
ponen en
lot
este
of
entredicho de viajar
Mexican
o no
citizens
a México
that
de
wonder
la forma
whether to
regular
travel
que
to
se debe de
Mexico or
hacer
not
y
in
que nos
a
gustaría
regular
hacerlos
way,
a todos.
and that we would
Para
all
usted,
love to
señor
have
presidente,
to
la
do.
pregunta es,
And for you, Mr. President,
¿es
the question
seguro
is
viajar en este
it
momento
safe
a México
to travel
con
to
todo lo que se
Mexico
está
with
viendo,
all
con todas
that
estas
we are
alertas
seeing,
y
with all
con
these
parte de
warnings,
estos hechos muy
with
lamentables
part
que
of
hemos visto,
these very sad
más allá del discurso que
situations
usted
that
da
are
todos
happening,
los días y de lo que
more
se ve en
furthermore
las
from
notas y en
the
las noticias en México,
speeches that you are
del otro
giving
lado
and the
también,
news
del
that is
otro
being
lado de la
told in
frontera,
Mexico. From the
se
other
ve,
end, in the
estamos
US,
inmersos en otra
we are
vorágine
in
de
depth
noticias.
of
Me
other
gustaría saber
types
su
of
pregunta,
news.
¿es seguro usted garantizaría
Would
que
you
los mexicanos
guarantee
del
that
otro lado
Mexicans, on
pueden
the other
venir a este
hand, on
país
the other
y
side,
visitarlo de manera segura?
can
Es
come
más seguro
to
México
Mexico?
que Estados
Yes.
Unidos. Eh,
It's actually Mexico is more secure than the US.
y, 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 no hay ningún
And there is
problema para viajar
no
por
problem
México
to
con
travel through
seguridad.
Mexico with security.
Pero eso además lo saben los
That, of
ciudadanos
course, the citizens know
estadounidenses
in the U.S.
y lo saben desde luego nuestros paisanos.
And they know it, of course, our paisans, our
Están
Mexican
bien informados.
people there. They are really well informed.
¿Sí? Tan es así
So much so
de que usted dice las alertas del
you're talking
gobierno,
about these warnings,
hablan de que solo se puede viajar a
and that
Campeche y a
they're
Yucatán.
talking about that you could only travel to Campeche or Yucatan. If it was like that,
No estarían llegando tanto
there wouldn't be a lot of
a vivir
U.S.
a la Ciudad de México y a todo el
citizens
país.
to live
En estos últimos
in
años
Mexico City and in all the
es
country.
cuando más
In the last few
estadounidenses han
dates,
llegado a vivir a
that
México.
there's more U.S. citizens living in Mexico.
Entonces,
So,
¿qué es lo que está sucediendo?
what's happening?
Es este doble
¿Por qué
discurso.
esa paranoia?
Es este doble
Why?
discurso.
It's
Es un
this
doble
double
discurso.
speech.
Por un lado, se
De
dice,
aquel lado.
no vengas.
Sí.
Over there, they say, "Don't come,"
Bueno,
and the
dicen,
families
la cosa
here,
no está tan fácil. Sí
the
hay
things
situaciones
are.
complejas,
It's not
que
as
ustedes
easy.
decidan.
They are
Y
very
el que está en el
complex.
entredicho de viajar o
You
no,
decide, and the
pero
one that
no
is
están en
indecisive.
No,
No.
esta
Well,
es una campaña
they're not saying that. This is
contra
a
México
campaign against Mexico
de los políticos
of these political
conservadores
conservatives
de Estados Unidos
of the U.S.
que no quieren
that don't
que
want
se siga transformando el país
that Mexico keeps transforming
para bien
itself
de
for
los
good
mexicanos.
of the Mexican people.
Y esos
And
políticos
those
conservadores
politicians, conservative politicians,
dominan.
dominate.
Ese es un problema que ustedes
That's
tienen.
that's a problem that you
A
guys
los
have over
medios de
there.
información.
They dominate the media
La mayor
there.
parte de los medios de información de
Majority of the media
Están al
in the
servicio
U.S. are in the service
de los grupos
of the
de intereses creados en ese país.
created interest groups.
Están bajo el dominio
They're under the dominion
de grupos económicos y
of
políticos.
economical groups and political
Las
groups.
televisoras.
TV
¿Cuál es la de
Cast,
usted?
what's the one?
Univisión
Univision.
Sí, pero no solo esta televisión.
But it's not only your
Allá hay unas
TV channel.
cadenas de televisión
They got
a
these
favor de los
chains
demócratas.
in favor of Democrats.
Creo que en esas
I think it's
es donde están ustedes.
one of them
Y
that
otra
you're on.
cadena,
And another chain,
¿cómo se llama? Fox, a
Fox,
favor de los republicanos.
in favor of the Republicans.
Entonces, está uno viendo la
And so one
televisión en
is
Estados
watching
Unidos,
TV
y
in
si
the
es la
US, and if it's the
republicanos
one
son
that you're
más
from,
La verdad
Y
es
si
que
se-
Republicans are bad.
No, espéreme.
No, hold on, no, hold on. Let me tell you,
Aquí es comunicación.
because right here is
Eso es la
it's communication here. Where you
comunicación.
speak,
Ve
I
uno,
speak,
¿cómo se llama? Fox. No. Y
and then you see Fox, right?
está muy mal todo lo que hace el
Fox,
presidente Biden.
and it's really bad about Biden. Everything about the White House is
Pero
bad.
se va a la prensa escrita,
But if you go to the written press
periódicos famosos,
and of those really famous
que todavía
newspapers
siguen
that they're still
de mucha influencia,
of a lot of influence,
Washington Post,
Washington Post, for example, New York Times,
igual,
Wall Street Journal,
igual,
same thing.
no representan
They don't represent
al pueblo estadounidense,
the U.S. people,
representan a grupos,
the U.S. community. They represent some groups, political and economical groups, the elites of the governments
y a las élites del poder económico.
and the elite of the economical power in the U.S.
Entonces, no representa
So it doesn't represent the citizens. Fortunately, as is in Mexico, in the U.S.,
la gente, los ciudadanos,
people, the
ya
citizens,
tienen otras
already
formas, otros
have
mecanismos
other ways, other mechanisms
obtener
to obtain
información de lo que realmente está
the information of about what really is happening, and so they're not believing you guys
o
anymore.
no les creen todo.
or at least not everything as it was done before. That's a change, a phenomena, a really important phenomena that has been provided at a global scale. Here in Mexico, we've advanced a lot on that. Mexico is one of the countries where there's less analphabetism, political analphabetism, and it's not that you're afraid. It's not that this violence reality that you're mentioning exists. It's manipulation. Pure and vile manipulation. And what's happening is that fortunately, citizens, the people, didn't mention Quintana Roo because it's supposedly insecure. Go to Cancun. Do you know how many flights arrive a day? Or that they land and take off? More than 700 per day. There are tourists that are arriving to Cancun as ever before. So then, and this is about a situation because you, the majority of the media, is to create a perception of insecurity so that it's not worth to say the government is not working. Populist, communist governments, caudillista, messianic of Lopez Obrador. That's not it. In the contrary, the intention to come directly with you, you mentioned a few days ago that the newscasts need to serve the people, and that's the intention, without manipulation, to ask you, in front of you, the leader of the country, your perception in respect. And I appreciate your response. If you say it's safe, it's much more safer than in the U.S. That's what we're going to speak about. And it's more secure than in the U.S. But you guys, for example, the media, don't speak about the cartels in the U.S. You don't speak about that. It's like if the drug would come in submarines. Now that they're in style, those balloons, they unload tons of drugs in the U.S. like Martians. And there, of course, like everything is so advanced,
por internet y se surte y es una red invisible. Allá no hay narcotraficante. ¿Cómo le llega al
so that there's no narco traffickers? How does the drug get to them?
nada más acá?
How did the drugs get there? Or is it just on this side? But they don't speak about that.
Informando hoy que hace como 2 meses detuvieron, pero creo que nada más lo destituyeron del cargo.
But I think they've only destituted him to the ex-boss of the DEA in Mexico and never spoken about that.
No se sabe nada. La DEA no informó.
DEA doesn't know anything.
Pero tampoco lo hicieron allá.
But they also didn't do it on their end.
Allá es como el castillo de la pureza. Entonces,
So
Hace
then
falta
we need
que los
to
medios, y esto es
work with the media,
algo que
and we need
hacemos con todo respeto,
to be doing with a lot, with the due respect,
recojan más
is to pick up a lot more on
los sentimientos de la gente,
the people's
que
sentiments,
no estén nada más
that they're not
haciendo
only
periodismo para las
doing
élites.
Al
press
contrario,
for the
tratamos de
elites. In the
llevarlos
contrary.
hasta abajo.
Muy bueno.
And we try to take it down.
Si van ustedes a Oaxaca,
And if you guys go to Oaxaca, for example,
si van ustedes a Chiapas,
if you go to Chiapas,
aquí en la Ciudad de México,
here in Mexico City,
vaya hoy a comer a un restaurante
go eat to a restaurant
de la Roma
from Roma
o de la Condesa
or Condesa.
de Polanco. Y va a ver
And you will see,
cuántos estadounidenses se va a encontrar.
you'll see how many U.S. citizens you're going to find.
Hay hasta esa queja, esa protesta, de que están llegando tantos que
There's that
están
complaint as well,
aumentando el precio de
Las rentas.
las rentas y de la
that the
alimentación,
rents
de lo
are
que cobran
going
los
up,
restaurantes.
the food, and what is being charged in the restaurants.
Fuese México como lo pintan allá, ustedes, no tú, o sea, estamos hablando de...
Not you. We're talking about the great corporations.
Eso es lo otro. Decía, una vez platiqué con Emilio Azcárraga, afinado, que le llamaban el tigre. Y era un hombre pues muy controvertido.
He was very controversial.
Decía que
This guy
no se tocaba
would say that Bridget Mary was
ni
untouchable,
al ejército ni al presidente.
nor the army, nor the president.
Cosas así, ¿no?
Things like that, right?
Pero era muy franco.
And it was really
Una de las pláticas
sincere,
que tuve con él,
some of the talks that I had with him.
cuando empezábamos en la oposición y queríamos que se abrieran los espacios. La primera
And we
entrevista
wanted these spaces to open up. The first interview, TV interview that was done, Jacobo Zabludowski did it.
siempre le voy a
And I'm always going to thank him for it.
a los dos.
To
Emilio
both
Azcárraga,
Emilio Escarraga and
porque él lo autorizó.
because he authorized it, and Jacobo
Desde luego,
that did it.
me la hicieron grabada.
Of course, they recorded it.
La hicieron en la mañana.
They did it in the morning, and
Noche, 24 horas.
they transmitted it on the night
Jacobo con el mismo
news
traje.
info.
En la mañana salió
And
como
Jacobo
si fuese en vivo.
did it as if he was it was live,
No fuese yo a decir algo
live, so that in case that I
que
said something
necesitaba
wrong,
corte
that
de
it
corrección, ¿no?
needed to be
Este,
fixed, cut and
pero le
fixed.
agradezco porque fue la primera
But I
vez.
appreciate that
Entonces
because it was the
hablaba yo
first
con él
time that
y
happened.
él se quejaba.
So I would speak with them about it,
Decía,
and he would complain.
en Estados Unidos
And would say, in the U.S., they want
el
to
country. Y nosotros
establish their way,
que escuchen
and we want them
a las
to
bandas,
listen to the gangs,
las bandas de música.
to musician bands, to the musical bandas, Mexican
Decía, es que a veces
regional music.
dice, no
And they would
es
say,
un país,
sometimes I think that's not even a country, he
es una
said.
especie de sociedad anónima.
It's some species of anonymous society.
Nada más que
Of course,
no vayan a decir que como ya falleció lo digo. No.
they're
Platicamos
not going to say since he passed away. I
muy
say it.
buenas pláticas con él.
We spoke about a lot of open things,
Sobre el entretenimiento, el papel que jugaba
about entertainment,
ellos
the
justificando eso.
situation, justifying that there was liberty, and if we didn't like a channel so that we could change it to another. That was their arguments when we were questioning that they were closed. But they were completely closed. So in the U.S. there are corporations. Those same corporations, the owners of those corporations, the counselors of those companies should mention the necessity that there needs to be a reform, a deep reform, in the way of doing press. It's like the way that they have to try to intervene in other countries. That comes from the Manifesto Destin, and then it becomes a doctrine, political doctrine, when Monroe speaks and says America for the Americans, and it doesn't end there. America for the Americans and the world. And so that has to change. There has to be respect to the sovereignty of the countries. We are independent. Mexico was founded thousands of years ago. Deep roots, cultural roots. We inherited traditions of great civilizations, and furthermore, we have a political history. African roots, and that's why we have a very good working people, of the best and hardest working in the world. So they need to be getting adjusted to respecting as we respect them. Fortunately, things are changing slowly. But now it's that they're returning to take out the frivolous, authoritarian, saying that if we don't align with the DEA, we're gonna be invading. Not like that, but we want DEA to intervene, and the U.S. Army comes in to combat the Mexican narcos and treat them as terrorists. And we're going to start an initiative. What is that? It's really offensive. And it's not the thinking of President Biden. He sent me a letter where he affirms what he's always spoken about, the respect to the Mexican people, respect to our sovereignty, and textually that the agreement that we have has to be onset in an equal way. And I appreciate that he maintains this posture, and now these public servants are coming in. For example, today I do have a reunion with the U.S. legislatives about the U.S., Mexico, Canada And then we'll probably be talking about going to Veracruz to show them the projects that we are developing there, the southeast of the country. And I say to them, to you guys, that on the 21st, Mr. Kerry is coming in, and the relation is good in general, but now and again that there's some things coming up, and we have to maintain our relation. It's really important that the cooperation between us and the U.S. is maintained, but without subordination. And that if it comes to say, for example, that the DEA would tell us what we need to do in Mexico, but it's not only, of course, fundamentals is an intervention to the Mexican way of life, that they step on our sovereignty, but it's not only that. How to trust DEA? Have they done it good? How come they didn't know about the Garcia Luna situation? So much time. They need to tell us, give us an explanation about that. Hopefully, even before Garcia Luna can turn into a protective witness, that they can hold up what they had about Garcia Luna, what they knew about his bosses. Why have they been kept silent? And this last situation about the boss and DEA boss in Mexico, what happened there? How come they didn't tell us about it? Hopefully that you can get an interview for them. And we'll see if we can get it. And if so, we can tell you about it. Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, Berenice Telles. Well, more than a question, Mr. President, it's a situation that the peasants in the southern location, this is not the first time that they've come to solicit a liberation of the political parties jailed in Aguas Blancas in '95. Speaking about Garcia Luna, it's a situation that justly comes from this administration when Garcia Luna was in charge of AFI. This was giving in Guerrero, and our partner Gilberto Aguirre Baena this month reached the pre-liberation, invoking a 20-year sentence. The judge determined that he would need to pay a reparation of 8,000 Mexican pesos to obtain his liberty after 20 years of enjailment, where there is nobody pointing him out, and he still needs to pay this supposed crime that was categorized of treason type, and they're asking for your intervention to solicit the liberation of this gentleman, and about this subject that is so harmful to the whole country. Yes, we're going to be there to take care of that. Rosa Isela Rodriguez will receive them. And we are looking for to liberate all the political party prisoners. In this case, the ones that have to do with the assassinations that the government committed, or members of the government in Guerrero against peasants. and that innocent people were blamed, and they have them detained. Rosa Isela will take care of them. We've been doing paperwork with the judicial powers, but in some cases that they have other crimes and that they've been making it hard for these peasants that are innocent that should be free. In the case of Antonio Barragán Carrasco, that has 128 evidence that he was tortured. Yes, there's a procedure with the judges that are the ones that need to help him, but they don't do it.
Buena parte del Poder Judicial, no todos desde luego, están nada más al servicio de caciques y de potentados.
So they need to be the ones to help them, and that's why I always say that the powers aren't tending the people and the poor people. They only tend to the ones that have money, have good lawyers. They're not tending to the people that don't have anything to buy their innocence. Yes, so in this case, to ask for 80,000 pesos when there's nobody blaming them, when these delinquencies were created, it's terrible. They don't love the people. That's the bottom of it. They don't care about the people. They are hardened in their hearts, indifferent to human pain, unsensible. That's why they shouldn't be there. But we've spoken about that it's not an easy situation, it's complex. It's something that has to do with the formation of the lawyers that during the neoliberal periods weren't created with humanism. They created them to make money, to benefit themselves. It's like the business makers or just men that you could do business but with reasonable earnings. I coincide with that, really. That a company can do business, or a particular person with reasonable earnings. But it wasn't like that. It was a thievery happening. So a lawyer would charge their earnings, reasonable earnings, public servants. How is it that they came to earn 500, 600,000 pesos a month? The court ministers, whoever dares to charge that amount, or in a country with a lot of lacking and a lot of needs, it's really dishonest. And you can't be providing justice like that. Can't be a public servant. But all this, of course, is what needs to be changing. And they're going to be tending him and taking care of him. Rosa Isela will be taking care of him. Thank you, Mr. President.
la compañera.
Thank you, Mr. President. Judith Sanchez Reyes, La Verdad, Noticias. So, days ago, Secretary of Security, ex-Secretary Genaro Garcia Luna, has been the center of attention in a lot of realms. Now that he is guilty for a lot of delinquent actions, revealing the complicity that he was able to utilize with accomplishing a lot of other people. How many people in that times were disappeared, murdered under his orders? And something else that is coming out to light recently is there's a great amount of people that were jailed unjustly. For example, 14 people that were jailed in Garcia Luna's time presented a denouncement in judicial powers of delinquency against patriotism. One of them, director of Apodaca in Nuevo León, that was the first public servant in Mexico to investigate Garcia Luna. Meanwhile, he was judicial director of public security. He was accused twice for the same crime. He was in jail for 8 years. At the end, he was freed with the benefit of a conditional status of liberty. He was pronounced innocent, that needed to be backed by the presidency, as well as the publication of the sentence in the Daily Newscast of the Federation, and these were also as well victims of many other crimes, a way of operating of the Federal Agency of Investigation that were using detentions. They would introduce them in a house, they would mount this whole scene, they would record it, and they would make it look like they would free the kidnappers were there. Many of them were tortured psychologically and physically. A story of Edgar Gonzalez that signed his crime, and the majority of the detained were people that were black, indigenous, didn't speak Spanish, and that guaranteed the situation that they couldn't defend themselves. And comment in Reclusorio Sur are identified 34 people at least detained 17 years ago. Majority of them don't have sentence. The question in this sense is to know if there's going to be a revision in these cases. How is these cases going to be repaid of the people that have more than 17 years jailed unjustly, and how is it being visualized or planned to back these people? And of course, last week these family members came out to denounce these cases. Nevertheless, for 4 years that he was in the Agency of Security and Secretary of Security, there's how many people will be trying to go out, and including all the victims could be able to speak about their stories and their situation. Well, this has been looked after with Rosa Isela Rodriguez. All these cases could be taken care of by her. And even that we don't have the faculties, precise faculties in the judicial side, because it has to do with judicial, we can help. It's our obligation to help. And so we can tend to them, see how their cases are. We're actually doing it when it comes to the Vallarta and other
presos
detainees
fueron torturados
that were tortured,
y que les fabricaron delitos
and that the delinquencies were fabricated,
o no tienen condena y por eso
or that don't have any
nuestra ley de
sentencing,
amnistía no puede aplicarse, o
convictions were fabricated, or
tienen condena
that they have
pero
a
desaparecen otros delitos.
sentence where there's other crimes
Lo de no
presented,
tener condena es
and that
realmente
about not having a conviction
atroz de injusticia.
is an injustice, a
No
great
tener
injustice.
Después de 10 años, de 15,
To
hay
not have
20 años.
a conviction set for up to 15
Es
years
una violación además a la Constitución.
is a violation
No hay
to the
justicia
Constitution.
expedita en estos casos. Entonces, sí vamos a seguir viéndolos.
So we're going to be looking into that.
Nos ayudes
And I ask you to help us
informándole a Rosa Isela o poniendo en comunicación a estas personas
informing Rosa Isela or putting it in communication
lo mismo.
of these atrocious crimes. Yes, these people have manifested themselves, yes, with them,
Ella,
so that
Isela, los busque
Rosa Isela can look for them
y hable con ellos.
and speak with them.
En cuanto a la reparación del daño,
And when it comes to the
Eso es un proceso,
reparations,
también se hace
that's a process
cuando
as
se
well,
demuestra,
and it's done when it's
pues, de
proven
que se dañó a una
that there
persona. El
was
Estado tiene que
a
hacerse
crime done against a person.
tiene que
The
ser
state
responsable.
needs to be
Es un
responsible.
procedimiento
It's a
también
procedure
que se tiene que
that needs to be initiated as well.
En otro tema,
Yes, Mr. President. Okay, and another thing, in the 8th of March, there's thousands of women that participated. They were asking the majority to not be a victim in a homicide, and so that there's no corruption in these investigations justly. A lot of these cases have turned into paperwork in a desk, and it called our attention the presence of a movement denominated Ola Azul, or Blue Wave, that the members asked where the violations where football players had been involved, that they get taken care of. One case, Palermo Ortiz, in the UNAM, University of Mexico team, was blamed for violation against a woman, and there's a Interpol request for him in 2021. Furthermore than the football clubs and the university that these players belong to, they've done a lot of situations. What is being done to eradicate the impunity and corruptions in the investigations of these cases? Because where it has to do with the aggressions against women and any other kind of aggressions, these aggressors are identified, and the political power has been able to do more, and mediatic ways have been able to do more. And it's cruel that these cases are more frequent every day, with the perception that we have is that we haven't had any exemplary cases justly to blame the offenders and detain them. On that sense, what do you think, and what do you respond to these requests that were made in this manifestation in different massive ways, but day to day in the media it's been searched and looked for to know about these cases, and also ask you about the information that you have about a disappearance of 6 women that was made in Celaya, Guanajuato last week. Well, in all cases, we are working, guaranteeing
todos los días.
security all day.
Eso es lo que hacemos.
That's what we're doing.
A eso le damos más tiempo.
We're giving it more time than any other
Actividades del gobierno.
activities of the government.
Todos los días.
Every day,
6 a 7 de la mañana.
from 6 to
No
7,
solo aquí,
but not only here in
que nos reunimos todos
Palacio
los miembros del
Nacional,
gabinete
that all the cabinet
revisamos
members
lo sucedido en las últimas
convene
24
and
horas.
we check what happened on the last 24 hours.
¿Qué delitos se cometieron? ¿En dónde
And we
se
can see
cometieron?
what delinquencies were committed, how many
Feminicidios,
murders,
¿qué se está haciendo?
feminicide,
No solo es
what's been done. It's not only this
diaria.
location.
En todos los estados
In all states, everything is done the same.
se reúnen autoridades estatales. En la mayoría de los estados,
State
los
authorities,
gobernadores,
the majority of the governors
los
do this.
comandantes de la Guardia Nacional,
Commanders of the National Guard,
la Marina, del Ejército,
Marines, Army,
los secretarios de Seguridad Pública,
Secretary of
los
the
fiscales,
Public
todos
Security,
trabajan de manera conjunta y hay una coordinación. Y no se permite la impunidad.
Pero
Y
hay
vamos
casos que han
avanzando.
quedado impunes,
District attorneys,
impunes,
Pues
presidente.
and we're advancing.
casi no.
But how many of them are impugned? How many have not been taken care of? Well, there's very few.
Pues,
Before,
imperaba la impunidad.
impunity was all over. Not now.
Ahora el que comete
Now,
un delito,
the
sea
one
quien
that is
sea,
committing crime,
por
whoever it
eso
is
informamos
punished. That's why we're
cada
informing
15 días.
every 15
Ahora le voy a
days.
pedir,
Now,
como
I'm going to
está
ask,
planteando,
because of what you're planning,
a la Secretaria de Seguridad
Secretary of Security,
que dé a conocer
to give us information
casos
in
de
cases
abusos
of abuse
a mujeres,
to women,
de violaciones,
violations,
de asesinatos o feminicidios
murders,
que
murdering or
se están
feminicide
atendiendo.
that we're taking care of.
Lo que pasa,
What's happening is
solo tenemos la
we only
oportunidad
have the
de
opportunity
informar en
to
esta
inform
conferencia.
in this conference.
Los medios de
Media,
información, como están en contra de nosotros, la
since
mayoría,
the majority of them are against us, they're not informing.
porque lo que quieren
Because what they want, of course,
sembrar
to
la
plant
idea
the
de
idea
que hay mucha violencia,
that there's a
y
lot of violence
hay impunidad.
and that there's impunity.
Nosotros no protegemos a nadie.
We don't protect
No
anybody.
establecemos
We don't
relaciones de
establish
complicidad con nadie.
any complicit relations with anybody.
Y diariamente.
And every day,
Bueno, hoy les puedo transmitir lo que nos
I can transmit
informaron, no sé si se pueda.
what
Sí,
was informed.
vamos
I'm not sure if
este,
I can provide it.
a darlo a conocer.
Yeah, let's go ahead and let that
Hoy en la
known.
mañana,
This morning,
entre otras cosas.
amongst
Lo de
other
la
things,
saxofonista.
about the
Sí,
saxophone
hoy
player,
nos informaron.
Maria Elena.
¿Por qué no pones la?
They informed us about that today.
Todos los días.
Every day.
Y el asesinato que hubo en la Ciudad de
And the
México,
assassination in Mexico City,
el cuerpo de la-
where they went to drop off the body of that
en Morelos, ya,
person in Morelos. We have all that.
todo. Y no hay impunidad.
There's no impunity.
Dice, va a castigar. Pero así
And it's
tenemos
going to be punished.
varios casos
And like that, we have very many different cases
que le voy a pedir a
that I'm going to
Rosa
ask
que,
Rosa
como
Isela,
tú dices, que no sean
like you
números,
say, that they're not numbers.
que se dé a conocer la información,
That
los
the
datos,
information
pero
has
que
been given out.
diga, este caso se resolvió así.
And that they say that
Este
this
caso
case
se
was resolved
investigaba
so
de
and
esta
so.
manera.
this case has been investigated like this, and so on.
El único espacio que tenemos.
And it's the only space that we have.
Completo.
There's a complete blockade
Completo. Y ahora,
about this information. And today, as ever before, they're really mad because the media connection with Garcia Luna was uncovered. They're really pissed as ever before, or psyched. I see Lopez Dóriga, and he says, President is speaking about that there's no feminicide, but look, they killed a woman in Guanajuato. That was yesterday. And an hour later, there was another act of violence. Even Calderón. I'm going to show you a tweet 2 days ago. With what authority does Calderón, moral authority, is the world upside down? But all that, they're pissed because we uncovered that he was consciously or unconsciously or unknowingly was leading a narco state. What's my fault? This is from today.
No sabemos, pero lo que quiero decirles es que diario.
I'm not sure about that, but what I'm trying to tell you is that we take care of these cases. Well, maybe because those are cases that get to the media, but for example, the case of these girls that are denouncing, all the cases are being analyzed and we're investigating. All the cases. Look, put the graph of what happened last weekend. One graph that we go over everything. Everything that happens in the country. And we take decisions on. We're not the same as before. President would have a everyday reunion of security with all his cabinet? Did the president unite with all the different departments in the security? With National Guard, with Marines, Navy, Secretary with Human Rights, government? They would receive an information a few days apart, or when there's something important happening, they would give in part, but we are every day taking care of this. This is what happened this weekend. There's our worries. Guanajuato. Of all delinquencies, 238 deaths. 15% of those in Guanajuato. This answers your question as well, in part.
Esto fue el fin de semana.
This was this weekend.
5 estados que deben de estar en la lista.
5 states that need to be in the list.
No, Campeche sí estuvo.
Maybe you can say Campeche. Yucatan is not there.
Quiere decir que 4 estados que están en la lista.
So 4 states that are on the list of the U.S.
no tuvieron homicidios.
didn't have any homicides.
Viernes, sábado y domingo.
Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. What about, and it's picking up in Guanajuato, Michoacán, that's where the situation is there, right? Yes, well, we're working on that every day. It has to be taken into account. Why don't you put that graph where how many of these homicides are with the organized crime? And what other ones have to do with all types of homicides? 60. Situations of organized crime. And why is Guanajuato going through this? That's what I'm talking about, tending to the causes. Above all, the consumption of fentanyl. Over here we got crystal. But put on Guanajuato, how is it possible that one industrialized state where there's work the one from the weekend, how many homicides have to do with the consumption, internal consumption? We have 2 priorities, fundamental priorities. One is to reduce the numbers of homicides, and we're accomplishing that. It isn't easy. You're going to see how we're doing. But the one in Guanajuato has to do with internal consumption. We're going to look for Sinaloa. 35%. Let's look at Tamaulipas.
¿Qué hace la diferencia? El consumo.
What's the difference there? When there's internal consumption of narcotics, there are fighting. They fight for the market. So then, what is it that is most important for us? So that there's no consumption. We have that spiritual, moral values that help us to reduce, or that the consumption doesn't grow anymore. Problem in the U.S. of the fentanyl is consumption. So now, this we're taking care of. Before classes end, this school year, there's a special announcement to all the schools, and we're asking the teachers that have been doing well, behaving, directors. We're going to be sending Secretary of Education an information packet so that every day, in whatever class, whether it's biology, physical education, civics, whatever class in middle and high schools, you can give 15 minutes of orientation about the damage that drugs cause. This we already have it in radio and television and campaigns, because from that it really depends on a lot. Our priority, of course, is that we don't have consumption. Second, that comes with it is that in that way we're going to lower homicides that are given precisely for that. And in third, that we're doing is to cooperate to help the U.S. to combat narco trafficking. But in these two priorities, that in Mexico there's no deaths, first. And second, that the consumption doesn't increase. That's why the attention to the young people. Because if this shoots out, not sure what happened in Guanajuato, we're analyzing. If this consumption goes up, that's going to get complicated, even worse. Guanajuato, we're analyzing even the behavior of the workers in the processing units, to see if they earn enough, if the work periods are 8 hours, because we have information now to resist the long hours, and because of other problems, we have consumption in the plants, in the factories. So we need to tend to the young people on that. We're taking care of that, and it's fundamental, I repeat, to avoid that families get separated. Family in Mexico is fundamental. It's our main institution of Social Security. Can you put that about Calderón, the tweet?
Presidente, y bueno, mientras, ¿cuál sería su respuesta ante
Mr. President, what will be your answer against the... When we were talking about the march of the women on the 8th, that there's not going to be any impunity, that they can have the absolute security, and I tell you with a lot of heart on this, that we're not going to allow, without punishment, to whom there's abuses committed, and that there's no impunity for anybody. My conscience is clear when it comes to... Do you know why I say it? Because with political ends, suddenly the PAN, political party PAN, became feminist. They come here and when we put up the barrier,
porque quisieran que
because they want
no pusiésemos la valla para que
us not to put it on
quemaran el palacio.
so they can burn down the building.
Entonces vienen aquí y dicen, cobarde, no tengas miedo.
And they come here and they say, "You coward, don't be afraid.
Xochitl,
Put up your face." Xochitl Galvez would say that, and other
¿cómo
legislators.
se llama la otra? Sí, pues es propaganda, ¿no?
It's propaganda,
Muy corriente,
cheap propaganda.
de mal gusto.
Y bueno, finalmente, presidente, preguntarle sobre el caso de Segalmex.
And finally,
La
ask you
semana
about
pasada, la
Segalmex.
Fiscalía General de la República consiguió
Last
22
week,
órdenes de aprehensión
we
contra exfuncionarios y
managed to
beneficiarios de
get
los
22
desvíos
orders
por los delitos de
about
delincuencia
the
organizada, lavado de
delinquency,
dinero
organized
y peculado
crime,
derivado de la
such
compra
as
simulada
money
de
laundering
miles de toneladas
and
de
simulated
azúcar en
purchases of
Segalmex.
tons of
Este fin
sugar
de
in
semana, el
Segalmex.
INAI pide a Liconza
This
aclarar la
weekend,
compra de
asked
20,000
Segalmex
toneladas
asked
de leche en
Liconza
polvo
to
que se adquirieron
proof
en 2022,
of tons of purchasing
ya
of
que de
milk,
acuerdo a las observaciones de la
and according to the observations of the
Auditoría Superior de la Federación,
Federation
hay una falta de
audits,
toma física de inventario, salidas
there
sin
is
facturar de
inventory
mercancía y
that
datos
has been
faltantes, entre
forged
otros.
and missing
Hay
items
voces que
amongst
reconocen que, bueno,
others.
hay un buen inicio
There's
en
things that
esta
they
investigación
recognize
para
that there's a
aclarar
good
este desfalco
indictment and
millonario, pero
beginning
que no van de fondo
about the
y
situations,
que no
but
van de
don't
fondo,
go
dado que
together
no van justamente
given
contra
that they're
los
not
responsables o
with
contra los que
the
ellos
responsibles or the
pudieran
people that they
ser
believe
señalados. ¿Qué responde
could
usted
be
al respecto, presidente?
guilty about
Pues
this.
que
What do you think
nosotros
about that?
presentamos la denuncia
That we presented that denounce
y hay
that
8
claim,
detenidos
and that there's
y
8
hay otras órdenes
detainees,
de aprehensión. Y es lo mismo, no hay
and that
impunidad,
there's
no somos iguales.
information, and it's the same thing. We end up on the same thing.
Son funcionarios, digamos,
Anteriores presidentes del periodo neoliberal, no somos
Presidents in the neoliberal period, we're not the same.
no permitimos
We don't allow
a nadie
anybody
que se robe el dinero,
to steal money,
que abuse
to abuse
sea quien sea.
of their job, whoever it is.
Entonces, nuestros adversarios andan
They're really
buscando
looking
que nosotros actuemos mal. Que en
that we
este
make
caso,
an
por
error or act
ejemplo,
in a bad way.
no presentemos denuncia
For example, that we don't
o
denounce anything
digamos
or
como
say
algunos en sus mentes
what they say in their minds,
retorcidas piensan,
twisted minds,
a estos no los
think
toca,
that you can't touch
ni que
these.
fuera el INE. El INE no se toca.
Wonder how Ian is not untouchable.
Calderón no se toca.
Calderon is
García
untouchable.
Luna no se toca.
Garcia Luna is untouchable.
La DEA no se toca.
The EA is not untouchable.
No, ellos lo saben.
They know about it.
Entonces van a tener que estar
They're going to have to be
inventando
creating and inventing a lot more every day.
cada vez más. Investigaciones, por ejemplo,
Investigations, for example,
de periódico o revista.
about this newspaper, Animal Politico.
Ahorita les voy a explicar en una imagen.
I'm going to explain to you in the image. Oh, I'm talking about the conservative
Les
ones.
voy a poner otra imagen.
And I'll put another image. They say that a good image speaks more
1000 palabras.
than 1,000 words. Look, there it is.
A Miramar,
When they went to look for Miramar, Maximiliano, all these guys,
son los mismos.
they're the same ones.
Estos son los inspiradores.
Those are the ones that inspire the current liberals.
Y si se hace el análisis de cada uno de ellos,
And if you do the analysis of each one of them, and I'll leave it in as a homework because it's hard.
pero bueno, ponme las fotos del
Put the
animal
pictures
político,
on of
pero
Animal
ponla donde está
Politico,
Claudio también.
where Claudio is. Claudio
Eso se va a
is.
llegar, digamos, a fondo y se va a
So
llegar
these
a
pictures
fondo.
are for the
¿Qué
neoliberal,
decían antes? ¿Qué decían antes los corruptos?
young neoliberal
Caiga
here
quien
with
caiga,
Maximilian.
no me temblará la
What the
mano.
corruption guys
La
would
ley
say.
es la ley.
Whoever falls, falls. Law is the law.
Pura
Right?
simulación, pura
It's just
demagogia.
simulation. Look at
Ahora no es así.
all
Miren, miren a Claudio.
demagogy situations.
Claudio, papá. Miren,
Look at Claudio Papa. Look at Father Claudio.
es la corte.
It's that
Entonces,
court there.
como ya no está invitado,
Since he's not
al
invited
grito de independencia,
to the
¿cómo voy a
independence
invitar a Claudio al grito de
grito,
independencia?
how am I going to invite Claudio to the independence grito?
A ver, ponme la otra.
Put that other one down.
Miren el de animal
Look at the
político.
Animal Politicos there.
Periodismo independiente.
Independent press? Really?
Objetivo,
Objective,
profesional,
professional,
cercano al pueblo,
close to the people,
distante del poder.
distant from the powers. Is that what he said? Here he is,
Eso
in the
con
power.
Calderón.
That was with
Con
Calderon.
Peña, billullos.
With Peña, money.
Entonces se va a castigar a
And
los
so,
de Segalmex.
we're going to be punishing Selalmex, and it's going to be informed.
Ya vámonos a desayunar.
All right, so let's go have some breakfast. I'm really happy with
El triunfo de México.
the Mexican triumph. Again,
Pues terminó como a las 11.
ended at 11, I think.
¿Sí? Desde las 8
From 8,
yo regresé de la gira
I came from the tour
El Sureste para
from the
la supervisión del
southeast,
Tren Maya,
supervising
como a las
Tren
6,
Maya around 6.
y a las 8
And at 8, I was ready watching the game.
me di cuenta ayer que
I noticed yesterday
pasión al béisbol,
it's
como
a passion
es mi pasión.
for baseball is great,
Esto que hago
as well as a passion of what I do here to represent
al pueblo de México y sobre todo
to the people of Mexico, and above all to defend the the
como
poor.
es también mi
And it's my
pasión,
passion as well
la historia.
in history.
Pero ¿saben por qué me di cuenta?
But
Que
do you know how I
mi-
noticed is baseball my passion?
Claro, la principal
Of
pasión,
course, the main passion
el servir al pueblo.
is to serve the people.
Se enojan en mi casa. Dicen que
In my home, they get mad.
es lo que
They say it's what
me obsesiona, ¿no?
what obsesses me.
Y sí,
And so,
pero ya termino. Ya voy a terminar en
but
septiembre.
now I'm finishing in September of next year.
Y
I
se
am
acaba.
retiring
No vuelvo
and I'm done. I don't come back.
a hablar de política
I don't
con
talk
nadie,
about
ni
politics
vuelvo
with
a participar
anybody,
en nada.
participate in anything.
Ah, pero les voy a
And
decir
what
lo
about
del
baseball?
béisbol.
Oh yeah,
Resulta
so
que,
it turns
vemos
out
la televisión
that we turn on the
y estoy
TV
parado.
and I'm standing
Estoy parado y me aviento así
and
como 3, 4 entradas.
I'm watching, standing up. I couldn't sit down.
Estaba yo, pero
I was really into it
sí, involucrado completamente,
completely,
metido, embarrado ahí.
smashed in there.
Eso le debe de pasar a
That must
los
happen
que les gusta
to
el fútbol
people that love
mucho,
football
mucho, o el básquet,
or basketball
o cualquier otro deporte, ¿no?
or any other sport.
Los intelectuales a los que les gusta la lectura,
And the people that love to read, for
voy a leer un
example,
libro para
can read a book.
son pasiones.
They're passions that we're talking about.
Mañana, la reunión es a las 10. Sí, tenemos ya información, se está haciendo la
We have the
investigación
information, we are doing the investigation,
que mañana, hoy
and it
mismo,
could be that tomorrow or even today,
informe. ¿Mande? ¿De dónde?
can't hear the question, sorry.
Radios comunitarias.
Radio
Yo pertenezco
Communitarian
a la
Radio.
Asociación Mundial de Radios Comunitarias de México. De hecho, soy el
I'm part of
nacional,
La Marque.
que ahora que nos reunimos todas las radios
Now
del
that
país
we,
en
all,
elección
everybody
democrática, como debe de ser, para
in the radios are
elecciones,
united
decidieron
for this
que
organizations
yo fuera su representante por
decided that I
el
would be
país.
their representative for the
A fin
next
de
few
cuentas, la
years.
representación, usted lo sabe bien, es una
At the
voz
end of the
nada más,
day,
una vocería.
representation is just a
Es esta
voice.
idea de traer la voz.
It's
La
this
voz
idea
que
to
traigo es de
provide the
Milagros,
voice.
acá cerquita. Al ratito viene
What I'm
Indalecio
saying
Benítez, un luchador
is,
social,
Indalecio Benitez
que
would come
trae desde
in
su radio comunitaria algunas peticiones, las vamos a
and has
poner
from
aquí en la
his
atención
communitarian
ciudadana.
radio. We're going to
Le
turn
pedí
them in.
que nos viéramos después de la mañana
I asked them
para
to see
acompañarlo.
each other,
Y pues
to go with them,
precisamente
and
las
precisely
radios comunitarias,
with
como toda radio,
communitarian radio, with all
somos un medio
radios,
de mucha cercanía. Cuando nosotros hablamos al aire, le hablamos a nuestros vecinos. Yo vengo de Hermosillo, Sonora.
when we
A mí
speak
me
on the air,
hablamos
we
a la
speak
ciudad,
to the people.
pero
I
de
come from
repente le
Sonora,
hablan a la comunidad más
but
pequeña,
suddenly
comunidad
they
más
speak
grande. Usted
with
lo
the
sabe. Usted participó en una radio
community.
indigenista hace muchos
You
años. Sabe
participated a
cómo
long
funciona
time, you
todo
know
esto.
how that works.
Nos preocupan muchas cosas en
And
las
we
radios
worry
comunitarias.
about a
He
lot of
platicado con
things in
algunos
the
compañeros
communitarian.
y le quiero hacer una pregunta muy concreta. Nos preocupa el futuro. Ahorita que lo escuchaba hablar de que el cambio tiene que ver en
Networks,
el cambio de cultura.
and
Es un
we
tema
what
que
we're
yo
talking
también,
about
yo me
is the
dedico a la
change of
cultura, también soy
culture.
artista,
I
empresario.
dedicate myself a culture, a scenic
Usted dijo
artist.
que iba
You said
a
that
combatir las causas para
you were
poder
going to
acabar con
fight
el
the
peor
causes
mal
to
que tiene
be
nuestro país, que es la
able
violencia.
to finish with the
Hay que apoyar el deporte, lo está haciendo bien. Hay que apoyar la cultura,
situations.
los
We
centros
can
culturales tardan 6, 8, 10
promote
años en realizarse.
culture, sports, as you say, and you're doing.
Estaba en campaña por la Ciudad
When
de
you were on
México,
campaign
ya
through
hablaban
Mexico
las
City,
gentes
you
cercanas a
were
usted en el proyecto de
people close
cultura
to you
que
were
habría que
already
meterle
talking
por lo
about
menos el
culture
1% del
projects
presupuesto
that we could put in 1%
del
of the
gobierno
budget of the
al sector
government
cultura. No el 1%
to
del
the
presupuesto,
cultural
1% del
sector,
PIB es lo que recomienda la ONU.
not 1% of the
Ahorita en
budget,
México
but
andamos por abajo del 1% del presupuesto
the
a cultura y gran parte de ese presupuesto se está yendo en una obra que va a ser muy valiosa, que es el
internal
Metro
product
Chapultepec,
making
pero
of
que deja
1%.
desprotegido de repente a ciertas
And
actividades
it's going,
culturales
some of it is
diarias
going to
en las comunidades.
Chapultepec, but it's
Y junto con
leaving,
esto yo sé que la escuela
left
en muchas
out some of
comunidades
the
es el
areas,
centro de la actividad cultural.
community
Sé que se está
community
renovando
areas.
la
I
nueva
know
escuela
that you're
mexicana.
working in the
Que nos
new
platique lo más
Mexican
breve que
school,
puedo, que lo deje para otro día para
and that you
platicarlo
can
ampliamente, pero que se tome
tell us
la molestia de
about that,
platicarnos
and that you can take the
sobre
time
el presupuesto de
to tell us
cultura,
about
cuándo vamos a
the
llegar a realizar ese
cultural budget.
1% que era una
When are we
promesa
going to arrive to that
y
1%?
cómo le estamos
That was a
haciendo
promise.
con
And
la
how are we
construcción de una
doing
nueva
with
escuela
the
mexicana que sea
construction of
un
new
centro cultural de cambio
school, a
social?
central
Gracias.
cultural
Mira, se está
school
invirtiendo en
for
cultura
exchange?
como nunca,
Well, we are investing
pero depende
in culture
qué
as ever
entendemos por
before, but
cultura.
it depends as to what we understand
Si
as
nos quedamos
culture.
nada más en lo que es la
If we
promoción
keep
cultural,
only what is
posiblemente
cultural
ahí
promotion,
nos falte.
could be that we're lacking a little
Pero
bit there.
si
But
entendemos que la cultura
if we understand that culture
es preservar nuestro
is to
patrimonio,
preserve our
nuestras
patriotism,
tradiciones, nuestras costumbres,
our customs, our ways,
nuestro legado,
our
que se
legacy
manifiesta en
that manifests itself,
las zonas arqueológicas,
the archaeological sites,
vestigios milenarios.
millennium
Aquí
vestige.
está el director del instituto Nacional de Antropología e Historia.
Here's the director of anthropology that can speak.
Bueno, todo el tiempo habla de eso.
Well, not just now, but he speaks about this all the time,
Se está destinando
of these vestiges, of how much
para
has been destined
recuperar
to recuperate
nuestro pasado glorioso.
our past, our glorious past.
A ver, te hago una pregunta. ¿Cuántos arqueólogos tenemos contratados solo en
How many
el rescate
archaeologists
cultural
have we hired just to rescue the artistic
la región maya?
of the
La
Maya
nación
region,
maya,
of nation, Maya nation?
todos, sí. Bases y 300.
It's about 300
Pero ¿cuántos
contracted.
tenemos, por ejemplo,
How many
trabajando
do we have, for
solo en el
example,
tramo
working in just
Ixpujil
the
a
Ixpujil
Calakmul?
section to Calakmul?
140. Bueno, pero voy más todavía, porque es muy buena tu pregunta.
Because your question is really good. I'm going to do a little bit more,
A fondo.
a deeper way.
Fernando Benítez decía
Fernando Benitez would say
que nos preocupábamos
that we would worry
por el indígena muerto
for the dead indigenous,
y manteníamos en el olvido, en la
and we would
marginación
maintain marginalized and in forgetfulness the live indigenous.
Vamos a Teotihuacán o
If we go
Teotihuacán,
to Teotihuacan,
a Palenque, a Chichén,
to Palenque, Chichen,
ahora Calakmul,
now Calakmul,
y es arte, es algo espléndido, ¿no?
it's arts, something
¿Qué
splendid.
pasa con las comunidades
And what happens with the communities
que son herederas de
that
esas
are
culturas?
inheritance to those
Marginadas,
cultures,
sin
marginalized,
atención, en la pobreza.
no attention, in poverty?
Pues ahora
Well, now
esa población es
that
la mejor
people's
atendida
is the best that is
y eso
tended,
es cultura,
and that's culture,
porque son los que más
because it's the one that
recibiendo
is
el
most
presupuesto para
receiving
programas de
the
bienestar.
budget
Hay tres
for the
estados,
well-being programs.
que
There are
son
3
los que
states
más, presupuesto
that are the
reciben
ones that more
para el bienestar.
budget receives
Oaxaca
for
y
well-being.
Guerrero.
Chiapas, Oaxaca, and Guerrero.
Los más pobres y
The most poor,
con mayor población indígena. Entonces, sí,
in the indigenous people. And so we are assisting them. There's more to do.
de las radios
In the
comunitarias,
case of the
me
community
gustaría
radios, I would love
que
to
platiques con Jesús,
have you speak with
porque sí
Jesus,
podemos ayudar.
because we can assist.
Es prioritario
It's
ayudar
priority to assist
a las radios comunitarias.
the
tengan mejor
community
equipo,
radios to have better
a
equipment,
que tengan sus permisos,
that they have their permits.
ayudarles. Podemos hacerlo, porque eso
We can do it
es
because that
información,
is information that
pues, más cercana a la gente,
is closest to the
a la
people,
gente
and that's
le
what
interesa
people
más.
is interested in.
Las radios comunitarias son
The
las que están
communitarian radio,
en la mayoría de los casos en las comunidades más apartadas. Muchas son bilingües.
a lot of them are
Y sí, en
bilingual.
efecto, yo creé
And of course,
una radio indígena, chontal,
you created an indigenous radio, you were right.
NAC, la voz de los chontales. La creé en 1900.
And I remember that was created in 79
en lengua maya chontal.
in the Maya Chontal language, and it was listened to in all the communities, and it's to fortify values,
Es reforzar la identidad,
to reinforce cultural identity,
arrestar
to
la campaña racista. supuesto de que de Europa nos trajeron la civilización y de que
To counteract the racist politic
civilizarnos, entre comillas, no
and the
hablando
fact
ya
that
la lengua indígena,
they push
pusiendo a
not
un
to
lado las
speak the
costumbres,
indigenous
tradiciones,
language,
la organización social
put aside
comunitaria.
their
No,
customs.
eso es lo que tenemos que fortalecer, y eso solo con la radio,
Communicative organizations, and they wanted that out. And with the radio, we assisted on preventing that. With a lot of social workers that are still in the communities, in the towns, then of course we're going to be assisting with that. But with Jesus, to see what can be done before the mandate is over.
Se ha ayudado, pero más. Sí, porque es importantísimo.
Because it's really important.
Teocelo.
Teocelo, for example.
¿Dónde? Sí, por ejemplo.
So, for example,
ustedes allá,
you guys over there
en Hermosillo,
in Hermosillo,
muchas en Oaxaca,
a lot of them in Oaxaca, in Chiapas,
Michoacán,
Michoacán, that are really important. Well, we'll see you next time. Ahí lo tienen, amigas, amigos. Gracias de veras por estar conmigo. Thank you all that you have been listening with me. We're going to be with you tomorrow as well, all this week together. And remember, on the weekend, acuérdense, el fin de semana, vamos a estar recuperando todo el tiempo perdido de la semana pasada que me enfermé, que no pude estar con ustedes en vivo. Vamos a estar retomando los días que nos faltaron. Muchas gracias. Cuídense mucho. Thank you for being here. We will see you tomorrow with tomorrow's daily conference. Remember, we're going to be on the weekend, we're going to be placing and putting in the days that we missed due to my getting sick a little bit, a few days. So we're going to be with you on that. Hopefully that you come in and just listen, because we're going to have a few days played together about this. So hopefully that you're with us. Thank you very much, Eric, Mari Carmen, gracias. Everybody that has been with us, thank you very much for staying with us and being a part of AZTECRON Mexico. Your friend Angel Ramirez. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.